YouTube, it's been so long. We're gonna open this box right now, and I'm super excited for it. This is something that we have been talking about doing for like 2.5 or 3 years. And for whatever reason, like something happens and it doesn't happen. And then I'm like, well, I guess we're not gonna do it then. But we're gonna do it right now. Oh yeah, look at this, it's the Avanti V3 plug and play from FMS. Very excited to see this. This is a popular plane, and so we're gonna try to bring it to you in all its glory. Of course, it's got, since this is a V3, it's got some improvements over the V2 or V1. Of course, I don't know anything about those, so it's like V1 for us. But that being said, I do want to point out, I can just tell from this, there's aluminum oleos spring-loaded for all 3 of the gear, which is similar to what you're going to see on the Futura. And also, I just want to mention, this thing to me seems super similar to the Futura, but just keep in mind that this is a 70mm, okay? So slightly different configuration, and it still has retracts, which are really cool. And yes, I have to flip this upside down so I can read the stuff on the back. The overview, okay, it does have inboard flaps, which is huge for me, huge. Okay, so improved EDF structure for added efficiency, an updated 3060 KV1900, which is 30mm by 60mm. And usually it speaks to the round dimension and then the length of the outside, okay? Which is called the stator of the motor. And then the KV is the rotations per volts, it's 1900. And not to be confused with kilovolts, which I used to when I first got into the hobby because I am working electronics. I understand KV to mean something different, but this precedes, it's a prefix of the number, not a suffix of the number. And the K would not be capitalized, it would be lowercase and then it'd be uppercase V for kilovolts. So anyway, it's also got a upgraded Hobby Wing OEM 80 amp ESC with 5 amp BEC. So I'm not sure if that's gonna be what's in here because sometimes the packaging does change over time. And oh, also this is not a toy. It's not suitable for children under 14 years of age. Why? No. Well, if you have
so you're gonna have to return
yeah,
it.
minors should be accompanied by an adult while operating. They actually added this label later, so somebody must have not done that. Improper adjustments in operations will result in crashes and damages to the item. I don't know anything about that. Attractive gold trim scheme, and then the added nav lights. Very, very, very nice durable EPO foam. Okay, so we normally don't read all that stuff, but I've just been noticing that, oh, and it does have a 12-bladed EDF fan, so that's good. 9-gram Metal Gear servos, which is super, super nice, and they call that a knee-type shock-absorbing landing gear. The knee-type, which we'll look at it. It may not be an oleo, like I said. My apologies if that's the case. I think it's still technically called an oleo, but you know, like on this Ranger 1800mm, if you look at the nose gear, this would be an oleo. I believe that's an oleo, and it's still kind of the CNC aluminum. Of course, that's bigger. So just keep in mind, we've done tons of planes here on Brian Phillips RC, and we love, oh, and it's designed by this guy, Sebastiano Silveresti?
Good job.
Did I say that right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will correct you in the comments.
So if you're that person, please take no offense by my lack of skill.
We're not Italian.
We're not Italian. Although it did say
Maybe
it was
we should
fragile.
go visit there just in case.
We should probably visit Italy just so you can tell us how wrong we did it.
You can have us over for dinner and tell us how to pronounce your name.
Okay, so there's the box. It looks beautiful. All right, so FMS does a good job of packaging. What the heck is this folded for? Sorry. That was a childish outburst. Seriously, whoever it is at the factory that watches our videos is like, I fold these in half just for Brian.
Yeah. They like take them out of the box.
Do this. Just lay it down, slip it in the box. Thank you. I hate it when the mailman folds our mail. We have a gigantic mailbox.
We do,
it's so huge you could stick this airplane in it. Well, maybe piece by piece. Yeah. I could probably stick it in after I fly it. Anyway, guys, if you're listening, don't fold the manuals. It's annoying. Oh, yes. We have to put the linkages onto every surface.
People, after you finish folding your manual.
This is why we haven't done the Avanti.
Because we knew.
Oh, no. Brian, I hate this plane. Okay, so that's carbon fiber.
Okay.
So guys, if you're new to Brian Phillips RC, this is what we do. We unbox the planes. We unveil their amazing beauty. But we don't do the fastest, bestest, cheapest BS. That's a complete waste of your time. If you guys want that, there's plenty of other RC related channels out there that will tell you whatever they're reviewing is the best thing since sliced bread. We don't do that here, which is also why it's tough sometimes to get certain manufacturers to work with us because they're like, oh no, what if he tells the truth? Yeah, pretty much we do. And we've already told these people, I mean, we crash your planes for them. That's all, you know, send it to Brian. We'll crash it for you.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Sure.
By the way, this thing feels heavy because of the retract.
Oh.
Are you kidding me? I can actually squish. They didn't use titanium on this tire. It's not soft though, squish that.
Oh, no, that's not soft.
Okay, but I must say, this is like a very, it's kind of short,
Well.
but it looks good. There's gonna be a strake here, cool. Megan gets excited about strakes.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
It actually is gold though. I thought it was like ugly yellow. It's
no, it is actually gold.
That's not ugly yellow, guys, that's gold. It's good.
I was hoping that this will be one of those planes that looks better in real life than it does.
It does so far. I mean, honestly, the colors, look against my baby blue shirt. See?
Yes, very nice.
You're welcome. All my haters, they're gonna be like, why don't you put your visor on too? I don't really care how dorky I
will
look.
when we go outside
It's
to
not about
fly.
me, it's about the airplanes. Dang it. So, but I was just getting done saying, what we do is we unbox, build, radio set up these things because everybody else wants to show how amazing they are, so you'll buy them from the links. We want you to buy them from the links too, but you know what? We've done so many planes, if this one sucks, just buy something else. Like, we don't care which one you buy, but at the same time, the manufacturers care that you buy this one. That's why they send it to us so that we can talk you into it because it's so amazing and perfect. I've got one wing out. I'm just kidding, guys. That's not what we do. That was my whole point in that commentary, is that if this plane is a giant stinky stench of turd, then we will let you know that. But I doubt it's gonna be like that because generally speaking, FMS planes are pretty good. Okay, 3 screws to hold this together, not glue. That's kind of nice.
That's good.
Oh yes, we get to put the linkages on here, even though the linkages would have slid perfectly into this hole. Right there, right there. It would have gone in the hole.
Is it slightly better?
This is just demonstrating how perfectly that would have fit with the linkages on, okay? I'm just gonna say this for all Chinese manufacturers. In America, at least at Brian Phillips RC, we prefer to have you guys put the links on, and here's why. Because I've done like, you know, 150 or 200 or 500, 600 planes in all reality, and so I know how to do that. And even though we go through this painstaking process to show people the entire build, it would probably behoove your business model to do it yourself because then you can test, you know, if the ball links are correctly administered and put together. And the only reason I say that is because A, I don't want to do it, and B, it's not even that hard, and you guys are really good. You're good at building this stuff at the factory, and we're not as good. Even the best of builders have not done thousands of planes. And like most of your employees that put these together, that gold is nice looking actually.
Yeah, that's cool.
I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was gonna be kind of uggo. It's a different trim livery, I gotta say. But honestly, that's one other thing too I was gonna say is in the process of building many planes, which we've done, I mean, there's like, I don't know, 40 or so up here in the living room and in the closets, and then downstairs there's hundreds more. We have learned an appreciation for different trim liveries. I have learned how to say livery.
You have.
I used to say it wrong because I was like, what about the libraries? Beautiful. And that's the God's honest truth, guys. These planes have a cool, I love the lines on it. It looks really nice. Actually, the unpainted white doesn't look as bad as I might thought it was gonna look. It'd be kind of, honestly, I think it'd look cooler if it was silver, but that just adds weight. And I love this ventral fin, that's really cool. Here, touch my ventral fin. If you're on your first date, don't ask that question, you could end up in trouble. There is a light under here. See, that is a nice looking, that's a trailing link style gear. I love the way this looks, very nice. This black is cool. And that's one thing about it is you get some more of that creative artistic look to some of these more you know, futuristic designs. I don't think the Avanti is a real plane in real life, is it?
I was just going to ask that.
I actually don't know. I feel kind of bad not knowing that answer, but that's true for like the Futura. I'm sure there are many, many Futuras of different sizes. Admittedly, I don't know if it's modeled after a real plane. I think it's actually just an RC plane. And if I'm wrong, guys, please let me know in the comments below. By the way, there is probably a nut and bolt sack over here. Yes. And I don't want to forget it. By the way, there is. Okay. Don't forget. What is that? Quality certificate. Oh, cool. They put the quality certificate in a hidden spot, which is kind of an interesting way of doing it.
It's mostly just linkages.
And for those of you that don't know, I work in manufacturing as part of the responsibilities of my day job. I have a degree in robotics automation. Most of you probably don't know that, but I work on industrial scale for a living. So I go into a lot of plants and environments where things are made, either from scratch or values added or something is cut up and then, you know, put in packaging so you can get it at Subway or whatever it is. So all the way from food to pharmaceuticals to animals and all sorts of different things. I mean, I do logistics stuff and I've been doing that for a long time. So if you guys are wondering what the heck it is that I do for a living, that's what I do for a living. So when I talk about manufacturing things, it's not just because we've done a lot of airplanes, it's because I do that for a living in my real world. And then I do this for fun, right?
Right.
I was prompting my camera crew for an eye roll. I do love this. She just doesn't necessarily love it like I do. She just cares about you. That's right. Look at this.
Usually.
Strakes. Wait, hold on. These are not strakes. Strakes are on the cells. Strakes are on the cells. What am I thinking? These are fences, wing fences. Camera crew, why didn't you correct me?
But I didn't want to make you.
Of all the times you would normally correct me for being wrong. Linkages and screws, all the same size. That is kind of nice.
Are they all?
They are. They are all the same size. Okay, so that's good. So only two. This is actually a low piece count, even really with all those.
Even with all the screws.
And we're gonna say something real quick, okay? So when you build these planes and you've built a million of them, it is a little bit annoying having to put these on, and we kind of beat people over the head when we see common problems like this, okay? Yep. If you're new to the channel and you're like, what the heck? Why are you complaining about a bent manual? Who cares? Well, when you do like lots of planes, you'll get eventually to the point where it's like, are you serious? And it's funny because when you review a lot of good planes, you have to start picking them apart at some point, or people just assume you're just rubber stamping them all as good. This is annoying to me. It's just a minor issue, but it is annoying. This is kind of annoying to me, but again, it's just a minor issue. Truth is, we lost a almost $700 plane because one of these things pulled off in flight and lost an SU-27. Okay, now, see this? You can screw it in. You can screw it out, but if you end up having to go out far enough that it weakens to the point that it yanks out, that's where your point of failure is. So there is a certain amount of, you know, some pilots are gonna like the idea that you have to put this together because then that gives you a little bit more control over the finished product. You can also test it if it's put together.
And we also don't change out every part on a plane before we fly it. So we show it to you how it comes out.
Oh yeah, we try to show it as stock as possible. There are times that we might, like the other day we did this Ranger and we took out a flash module for the wings. But we show how to do that.
Change the way the plane flies.
We did technically add a three-way splitter though, a servo signal splitter. But I mean, most people are gonna have that sort of thing around, or you can solder it. But we do try to do that when we're doing these builds, guys. We don't wanna mislead or misguide you. Our objective here is to show you how amazing or how crappy a plane is on its own merit, and not just our opinions, but you get to make up your mind based on our assessment of the product. So we're gonna get a plane stand and come right back. All right, so we gotta glue these wing fences on. It should be a pretty easy process. The reason I'm starting with the wing fences instead of anything else is just for the simple fact that we wanna have the glue have a little bit of time to set up because we'd like to fly this after we're done building it if we get it done in time, okay? So I don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but normally they're suggesting some medium CA, and what you wanna do is just pay special attention. Anytime you've got fit parts, parts that need to be fit like this, and you're not sure which one's which, there isn't really a which one's which, just to be clear on this. But you see, that's got a little bit of a pressure fit, But this is thin, and this is gonna be a very fast plane. So what I wanna do is I wanna just take note of which side is gonna go up, and then I'm just gonna put some glue. This is the China glue from FMS. You can use CA, medium CA is what they suggest. CA would be fine for this application, but personally, I have a hard time keeping my CA from getting dried out. And we do tons of planes. So yes, I know there's gonna be like 7 of you that tell me to put it in the fridge. I've done it. It doesn't make any difference for our glue. I've tried it a million times. Plus we have 2 fridges and 4 deep freezes in this family. And we do not have room in our fridge for any glue. I already have planes all over the house. If I start putting plane stuff in the fridge, I'm gonna literally be living out there in the trees.
Yep.
Okay, so you see this China glue here? I'm just spreading it, and it's like really messy and it's goopy, and that CA would be a little bit less messy. But the thing that's nice about China glue, is that it works. Okay, so now watch this. And you're like, you're only gluing one surface, right? I'm like, that's the way I'm doing it. See that? Watch this, boom. That's where I'm doing it. I'm just sticking it in. And you're like, but you didn't let it cook off like normal, Brian. You're right, I didn't. You wanna know why?
It's like a little itty bitty piece.
It's a little itty bitty piece. And I picked which side was gonna push into, and then I glued that side, because you're not gonna get glue on the other side. Now, if you did medium CA, you could fill that gap, and it might help, but this is gonna be plenty good. It's gonna be stuck on there, and it's gonna be very resilient and strong, okay? Again, why was that not manufactured by the manufacturer? I don't quite understand that. Maybe that would have been hard to fit in the actual packaging. Okay, so I'll just lay that down.
Okay.
And then same thing here. All I'm saying is, as I slide this in, I get it in there rough, and then I'm taking my thumb to position, and then I'm just paying attention to approximately where that protrudes through. So now I need to glue this surface. And you'll notice, like, if you're out of your China glue and you can't get it, you can get foam to foam, which is a good product while you're ordering your receiver, and save a few bucks on shipping. Now, we like to use Spectrum receivers. Admittedly, some of you guys are gonna wanna use cheaper receivers. We understand that, we always understand that. There's always gonna be people that are in different price points, and we try to hit the middle ground. Believe it or not, Spectrum receivers are the middle ground, folks. I know some of you are like, well, what about FR Sky? What about open source? What about Futaba? What about, guys, there's a million choices, okay? Spectrum is in the middle. I feel like they make a really good quality product, and we work with them. So it's you know, like all of the above. It's not like, hey, we're just trying to do it for some financial gain necessarily. It's just more a matter of they make a good product, they do a good job of it, they do it consistently, and so we like their product. So that's why we use their product most of the time. We also have Lemon stuff. Lemon is good stuff. It's just that one of the issues we've run into is that when I'm ordering planes, go back in time, when I was ordering planes before we were working with all these brands, okay? I would order a plane, and then I couldn't get a receiver while I was ordering it. And then I had to go over and pay shipping at 2 different sites. I hated that. So I always wanted to figure out where I could get my receiver while I was ordering the plane, if possible. And so what we try to do is we try to come up with something that's systemic that you can use on a bunch of different models, okay? That's one of the big reasons why we really like the Spectrum stuff. And then also, we've just had good luck with them. And also, if you're using OpenTX, we don't mean to talk down to anybody that's using a different product like Futaba or whatever. That's fine. There's definitely advantages to those different products. And a lot of times the advantage comes, especially if you're talking about OpenTX, in the price component. It's a big difference in price, and they are relatively inexpensive. Same thing if you go into FR Sky. You can get that stuff for super cheap. But the problem is you can't order it when you're ordering your plane, not unless it comes as a ready to fly with that particular product. And so if you're just strictly going for price, get yourself a Lemon RX. You'll get a lot of the features you need, but then you're not gonna get the ease, you're not gonna get the forward programming, and you're not gonna get that simplicity that you want. And by the way, I'm gonna just tell you this now, and you guys can argue with me later, but just for now, take my advice. You want something that's easy and manageable when you're new, and you're gonna get more support and you're gonna get more help from more different people on Spectrum products than you are on other product lines. That doesn't mean there isn't people out there that are doing some OpenTX, some T8SGs, and some Radio Masters and things like that. We're aware of these products. We just don't have them necessarily in our fleet. And the times that we've used them, we had problems for one reason or another. It was either too hard to program, and it wasn't our style. We weren't used to it, which doesn't mean it's a bad product. It's just not what we're used to. And we found that the Spectrum stuff worked better. I mean, I've got a DX18. That was the last big transmitter that I bought myself that wasn't involved in some sort of a marketing thing, okay? And X10 is where we are now. Okay, we had the 6, we had the 8, we have the 10, and that is like the very bottom of the entry-level line card. You can spend like 3 or 4 times as much as that on a Spectrum product. This does everything we need, okay? And that's part of the reason why we push into the 10, because, and as you can see, that fence is done. We're just gonna let it here to sit and dry and cure. And that's what we try to do here on Brian Phillips RCs. We want you guys to know when we suggest these particular receivers and transmitters and things, it's not because we think it's the only option. It's just what we have come to know, we've gotten used to, we've enjoyed, we've had very good luck with. And honestly, I've never really had a problem with a Spectrum receiver. I have had problems with Spectrum products. That's not to say I've never had a scrolly wheel get wet in rain while we were filming in the rain like a bunch of idiots.
Right.
And then have that never actually resolve itself. And so later I ended up getting into a new one rather than sending it in for repair because we had no time for downtime with our production schedule. There's also times that I've dropped this on the ground and had to replace my A switch, okay? Which I admit to. I've also had times where I've had Spectrum batteries that were either DOA or had problems early. And we always communicate these things. That's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We don't want you to think that they're impervious to issues, but we have found through a lot of sampling in personal experience that when there is a problem, they're one of the few brands that's gonna back it up, just like FMS, okay? We've had good experience with FMS as well. Now that's not to say that there's never a problem, because that's not what we do here. We just show you the way that it presents in our experience, and then you can draw from that what you need. Okay, so 4 transmitters and receiver combos, rather. This is the AR8360T. Way major overkill and quite expensive. However, a lot of you are gonna end up there because it's only a few bucks more than the AR637T, okay? Why would you use the 637T when you could put in an AR630 or an AR631? Okay, I'm gonna tell you the predominant difference between these two. Now, this plane doesn't initially come equipped with a reflex. It may be available, but ours is a plug and play. That means that there's no stabilizer or auto leveling involved. So if you're a newer pilot and you'd like to have AS3X and SAFE, which is gonna be the AS3X is a stabilizer, and SAFE, okay, so AS3X, artificial stabilization 3-axis, that's AS3X, which is the basis for SAFE, sensor assisted flight envelope. So it's using the sensor AS3X to make decisions to help level the aircraft. Now the reflex, like what came in this FMS 1800 millimeter, and then many other FMS products that we've done in the past, can use a non-stabilized receiver. These are stabilized receivers, but they have limited flyby telemetry, okay? So you're gonna have some limits on what you get. You jump up to this and you're gonna get the full barometric pressure, so you'll get altitude. You'll also get your 3-axis feedback on gyro settings, and also, you know, like when you're doing maneuvering, you can tell how many G's you actually apply to the plane, which is sort of useless for most of us. But these ones also give some of that. It just doesn't do much for us. And you can't change the way the plane behaves with respect to that feedback, although I think at some point we're gonna get that, and that's gonna be sweet. But that being said, these ones are gonna add full range telemetry, hence 2 antennas. This has an internal antenna, the 630. The 631 adds the external antenna. It's like $5 difference in price. But these ones, I think these are like 15, 20 bucks difference in price. It's not a big difference. So if you're getting this, you might get this just so you can add extra features. But note that it's bigger. And these are pretty expensive, okay? We know that. So you may not want to pay for that. You may want to just go with the more simpler 631. But I think the middle ground that's going to be appropriate for this particular plane would be the 637T. Now, why 637T? Keeping in mind this has 6 pluggable channels, which means you can plug in your throttle in no particular order, elevator, ailerons, elevator, I already said that. Elevator, rudder, ailerons, flaps, stabilizer, or excuse me, we'll do gear, then we already did flaps, so we can do mode, okay? But you don't have to do mode on a pluggable, right?
Right.
So you could technically do like another aileron.
No, because that's 7.
Oh yeah, 6, right.
Yep.
Thank you for counting. That's right, that's my 7th finger, good job. But if you had thrust reverse, you'd want to have something pluggable.
Yep.
And that's where you're really gonna want this. Now, I already did some internal investigation by pulling this lid. And I see that the throttle plug is just a Futaba plug with just the 3 wires, okay?
No yellow.
So no yellow. If you have yellow, that means you may be able to use the Predator ESC, which comes in a lot of the newer versions, newest versions, I should say, of FMS
this isn't
gear.
the Predator
This is
ESC.
not the newest version. So you can get a Spectrum Avian ESC, or you can buy a Predator ESC that does support the thrust reverse, but you have to have another channel to facilitate turning it on and off. If you're curious to see more about that, P47 1.5 meter from FMS, we do have the thrust reverse enabled. Also, T28 1.4 meter, watch those videos. All you have to do is just go over to Brian Phillips RC. You can find them by type or by brand. FMS is the brand we're dealing with. Or you can just search for it right here on YouTube and you'll find it. We're not trying to get you out of this plane. We're not trying to get you into that plane, but just if you want to see more details on it, because this one doesn't come equipped with it, we're not going to talk about it much. Also, if you do an Avian ESC, you can use any of these receivers we've discussed and you can control thrust reverse through the serial connection within the system, okay? So, a couple things to consider. Thrust reverse on fast flying EDF jets that have inboard flaps that land fast and hot, like this one probably will, makes a world of difference. You can take a 275-foot runway, like that's the way ours is. There's a turn and that measures to the center of our takeoff area, and there's a little bit of a decline in altitude there. So when we take off, it's fine. When we land, you lose a little bit of that distance, probably about 30 feet because you're in ground effect and then it goes uphill. So let's just call it a 250-foot runway roughly, okay? That's not always long enough for this, so we overshoot and go into the grass. Or if you're flying grass ops, you know, you may need that thrust reverse to stop in time. And so we've noticed that that's really handy. By the way, P51, 1.2 meter, made by FMS for E-Flight. That has thrust reverse, bind and fly. P47, 1.2 meter, made by FMS for E-Flight, comes with thrust reverse in a bind and fly finish. That means that you don't provide anything other than your own transmitter and your battery. Okay, so bind and fly basic is what they call that. This is a plug and play, okay? So again, this is why we talk about this stuff. I mean, most people getting into an Avanti are gonna be a little bit more experienced pilots, probably not gonna be your second or third plane. But I have no idea, I haven't flown this before. It's a very popular plane, so I think you guys are gonna love it. I'm sure I'm gonna love it. But the thing is, we wanna give you good, actionable information. But also, sometimes that comes across as like overwhelming. This is a lot, I don't know how to take this all in. Don't worry, just do what we say and we'll help get you where you wanna be, okay? So 637 is good enough for this application, but if you do throw in a thrust reverse on a Predator ESC, you wanna go for this. It's a few bucks more, but you need the extra pluggable channel. And you're like, what do you mean pluggable, Brian? I don't know what you're talking about. These are all like 8-9 channel receivers, okay? I believe these are 8. These might be more than 8 because you can actually control flight modes and different characteristics from unpluggable channels that are above 6, so 7, 8, and so on and so forth. I don't know how high they go. I admit I'm not sure on that, but I know that we're gonna be able to do our master gain without using a pluggable channel, and we're gonna be able to use this switch in this case. We're gonna assign those switches. We'll show you how to do that in the radio setup part to actually control AS3X, off, or safe and AS3X. Okay, so auto leveling and stabilization. So in the middle, we'll have nothing if you want to go like crazy 3D fast aerobatics, and then we'll have stabilized for normal aerobatics and normal flight for me. And then you'll have auto leveling if I want to hand over the control to a friend that's maybe a little bit less experienced, and then have the plane come to a level state when you let off the sticks, okay? So we'll fly in that mode though, okay? You can do that on any of these receivers, but they're gonna come at different price points, okay? 630 would be the basic one, but this can reach out a long ways in a short distance. That's why I would say for a couple bucks extra, you get the external antenna. Spectrum claims there's no difference in range, and I cry BS. Why would they have a bigger antenna then? Why do they even offer it with an antenna if it's bigger range without? I don't know. This has end pins, this has top pins, meaning that you plug in like this versus plugging in like this, okay? Both of these have end pins. Also, because all 4 of these receivers are spatially aware within the aircraft and the fuse, you need to pick a spot where it's going to be mounted. You don't have to go for the center like you used to, right over the center of gravity. That would be impractical in most planes, but I would not recommend mounting it on this surface. It's a weird, ambiguous point. You don't want to be at a weird angle. You want to be flush this way. You can be off and you can be off, but remember, that is a correction factor that's applied to every movement within the plane's attitude. So I would suggest trying to keep it level. I would suggest trying to keep it simple, but also make sure you leave room for your battery. So some people would insist on mounting it, you know, like up here, because your battery's going to be dropped down in here. And that leads me to my next point, and that is, what battery are we using? Well, off camera, we're reading quick, and we noticed that we had a 3200 6S 30C. They call it a 35C. This is underrated. Then we have a 4050C and a 4050C, both in 6S. So we're using an S2200, which is 200 watts, dual chargers, and they both come with these flippy doohickeys, just like this one does. This one won't work because it's only 4S capable. These are both 4S. They go all the way up to 6S rather. That's a single channel, 200 watts per channel. Okay, so we're getting those things charged while we get ready to build this plane, and I wanted to take a second to talk about the receiver and what that means to us and how it might impact our build. So as we work through our build, now that we've made a decision that we're gonna go with the 637T, we are gonna tap our power wire so we can get pack voltage in this, which is really nice. And what I mean by pack voltage is I mean that you will know on the fly, pun intended, what exactly the voltage of your battery is, and you'll know that through telemetry. You can set up alarms, and you can also have it on your screen displayed as such so you know when you need to land. The reason we just crashed a plane the other day, I was flying a J11, beautiful plane made by FMS, and I crashed it because I caught the edge of a wing, and there was a missile rail, and I caught about, I don't know, 4 or 5 branches at the very tip of a tree, trying to come in on final, and I neglected to pay close attention to my battery voltage, and I neglected to pay attention to my timer, which was about to expire, but it wasn't expired. And that was on a 100C, high quality, very expensive pack, but I pushed it too hard, and that was a twin 70mm EDF, and guess what happened to my plane? It happens. So try to stack the odds in your own favor, and we'll give you some tips. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always gonna follow my own advice, and it certainly doesn't mean that you're gonna follow my advice, but at the end of the day, we wanna at least say it so that you know kind of what we suggest, and then you can make decisions based on what we suggest. Also, I suggest that these scissors immediately cut this warning off, because like seriously, what are you gonna stick into this that gets sucked into an EDF in? If you stick it in there, it's 2 things. If you stick it in there and it's long enough to get cut by that EDF, congratulations. Don't do that, please. 2 different statements. Because look how far that is.
That's a ways.
Like, don't stick something in there. If you stick it in there, just you're assuming it's gonna go bye-bye.
Yeah.
And if you stick it in there,
Then
show them.
That's a really long ways.
That's a really long ways. So, we're gonna build this plane right now, and we hope we've answered all your questions about what receiver we're gonna pick, which this is it right here, the AR637T, which is probably a good middle ground choice for this. Now, if you get this with the reflex, you can go as simple as a 620. The 620 is gonna give you all the channels you need.
Except you won't have mode.
Let's talk about this. Throttle, elevator, rudder, ailerons, flaps, gear. You're right. So in that case, and you want to do a 6-channel still, you could do a 6010 or is it 6110T, and that would give you telemetry, but it would also give you 1 short. So what you can do is with those reflex, you could lock them in the mode you want. So if you want stabilization all the time, turn it on. If you want auto leveling all the time, which I would highly not recommend, because you need to be able to shut that crap off if you have a problem and you got to get out of the way for something, okay? Then you need to go up to the 8020T,
Yep.
which eliminates the AS3X and SAFE, and you just depend on that flight controller that's built in, okay? So we've answered hopefully all your questions. And yes, I know there will be 10 of you that still ask the question in the comments below, and I will refer to watch the video on that type of question, just because I literally can't explain it every time somebody comes up with that question, because we've said it thousands of times. Yes, I'm using scissors to pull this staple because I'm lazy. The reason I'm pulling that staple is because I want to pop this open. By the way, this manual is not completely useless in this book, but you're probably going to find that this manual is way more useless than watching a video like this where we answer tons of questions, especially if you are new in the hobby and you don't have maybe the know-how, or you're coming back to the hobby and you don't have the recent know-how. And that's one of the two big things that we try to do on this channel, on Brian Phillips RC, is we try to help people get back into the hobby so that they can get appraised of the current settings and the, you know, the different technology that's being used. And then also for people that are brand new to the hobby that come in thinking, hey, I'm gonna get an Avanti as my first plane. And we're like, please just don't do that, because you're gonna end up on the side of your driveway or your runway crashed and crying like a little child, like the way I cry when I crash. So just don't do that.
Now do you have to tell the people that you did all that work so you can keep that piece of plastic? That's why you took the staple out of it?
That's right. And see, this is the antenna. So these are diversity antennas. This is the bind button, but there is actually a bind plug you can use if you want. Bind program and SRLX2, not to be confused with SRLX, which is different, okay? This is the S, it's silk screened on there, so it's orange paint, then plus, then minus, okay? So we're gonna go in from the second port in through the sixth port, okay? Then this is what's gonna go into the battery line, and we're gonna tap that, and that's gonna give us our telemetry values via this port here. This is a micro pH 1S plug. Stands for one cell in series. Yes, I know that sounds dumb, one cell in series. Why do you use S instead of a C? Because C is used for other things. And in this environment, it's not used at all. But that just happens to be a 1S connector, okay? So now, I like to take these plugs and I will hold them firmly with my fingers and then twist. If you get a drill, you can put this in the chuck, and if you spin this, you will have a nice, neat looking cable. And you're like, but if you twist that and you can't separate the wires, that's the whole point, because it's gonna be cable management 101 at some point on this plane, so we might as well do it now. So you see what I'm doing? Just walking back a little bit at a time, and then you end up with this nice braid looking thing. It's only 2 wires, you can't really braid it, you can just twist it. And this makes it so much easier to cable management. And then what you're gonna do is this will go in parallel with your pack. And parallel meaning the red to the red and the black to the black. And there's a number of different ways you can do this. I'll just show you how I'm gonna do it right now, because we've got no wings, which means I can stand right next to the plane and not make my back hurt. Okay, see this? Looks a lot nicer, a lot easier, a lot more tenable, okay? So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your wire. This is your IC5 connector will be compatible with this EC5 connector. This is an E-Flight connector. 5 is the size, okay? They also make EC3s and so on and so forth. There's also EC2, it's a lot less popular. And then there's IC5, IC3, IC2. There's XT90, which would be compatible with this size, XT60, XT30. There's a bunch of different size classes on these things. If you're brand new to the hobby or just getting back into it, we'll help you address those concerns and questions as you go. Now, in order to get this out, you would have to actually press this connector out that way. It's extremely difficult to do. I would not recommend it. So the alternative measure is you cut the end off, solder everything back together, but look how long this is. You don't have much to work with here, folks. So you're gonna have to pierce this and slide that in, okay? You can either slide it in up here, or you can slide it in back here, or you can slide it in back here, or you can go all the way back to where the ESC is, but good luck with all that crap. That's a lot of work. So I'm just gonna do it the easiest possible way. And actually, this might work. I can just take one of these small ones, 1.5 millimeters. Ooh, 0.7 millimeters. That's super sharp. It's almost like a needle, okay? So that's perfect for what we're doing. Now watch this. When you poke into these wires, there's silicone on the outside, and then you've got a little hole there, right? So what are we gonna do when there's a hole? I mean, obviously we're gonna stick it in there.
Yep.
So you can see what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just stick it in there. Now these are tinned leads, so they got a little bit of strength to them. And look, I'm just gonna stick it all the way in until it's satisfactorily stuck in the hole, okay? And then I'm gonna take this wire and I'm just gonna pierce it. Now all we're doing is we're piercing it, and then all those wires are stranded. So this goes in and just slips between the wires. It doesn't actually break the strands. And even if you did break the strands, it's not a big deal. You're just breaking 1 or 2 strands. You probably got like 40 in there, okay? Then look at this. I'm gonna take this other wire, which is the black one, of course, and we're gonna try to slide it in here. And then the idea is we wanna make sure that we touch the other strands, but we make it touch in such a way that it doesn't pull out super easy, okay? And that literally is all you have to do. And now I'm gonna go the extra amazing mile by using some black electrical tape. And you're like, is that seriously the way you're gonna do that? Mm-hmm. That seems really, 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 really crappy. Don't you worry, just try it once. It really works. Now you can also strip this. You can take strippers and you can cut and then expose and then twist counter to the twist pattern, and it will open up the wind. You can go in and then twist it back and it'll bite, and then you can shoot some solder in there. But I don't recommend it. It just adds unnecessary weight, complexity, and difficulty. And I'm just gonna show you just how easy this can be. Look. That's literally all you have to do. Now, keep in mind, you're probably like, but Brian, won't that overheat and melt? No, it won't, because this is just a telemetry port. There is no load on the end of it, okay? So if this was hooked up to like an EDF fan, then yeah, it might get hot and catch on fire and blow up in a million pieces. But it's not gonna do that because all you're doing is going to a telemetry voltage on that thing, okay? So remember, this is going to an ESC where it's dissipating lots of current. There is a load. This is not going to where load is. But Brian, electricity takes best of all leads to resistance. What the heck? By some movie magic, there was a zip tie that ended up on this wire. Actually, what happened was we had somebody delivering product to our house, and it was in some random, like, I don't know if you guys have this happen, but you order something on Amazon or Sam's or whatever it happens to be, and then just like some random person shows up with your stuff, and I'm like, what is going on? Who is this person? And why are they trying to rob me like that in the front yard like that? So anyway, see this? Look, now the zip tie is going to relieve any sort of stress or pressure that would be applied to this wire. So you're done. Now you plug this into your receiver when you're ready, and it's done. And so all I like to do is I will run this back into the abyss of mess, which is back here. That's the abyss of mess back here. And then you're ready to rock and roll. See, then you just pull that out of the way, and this goes to where the rest of your wires go, and you're done. Pretty simple stuff, right?
Nice.
So in fact, you can kind of run this, and if you're careful, you can slide this up there. Okay, so it's stuffed up in there and ready to rock. So now we can just like literally come back to that when we're ready for the radio setup.
Do we want to put the thing in there while we don't have a wing on the plane? The receiver. Do you want to put the receiver in the plane?
I don't know, I'm just distracted by all the ding dongs.
Sorry.
After
More
all
magic.
that, after all that movie magic, seriously, they came up and delivered our package, and then they left, but they rang the doorbell right as we were coming back. So these are little 3M style pads that have double-sided tape. And what I like to do is I will generally locate my receiver, but I have to be thinking about where the battery is going to end up. Okay, so fortunately for us, our batteries are about done getting charged. Okay, so you can see this. I'm just gonna pull this up. You can see where the battery needs to go. And we were talking about maybe trying to put the receiver on a flat surface. This is about the worst spot you could put it. But this might be okay here if there's enough room. You see the lip of the canopy, cockpit area needs to drop down just a little bit. But you could hypothetically mount that sideways there if your battery isn't going to, you know, impede that area. Just not 100% sure we have enough area there. Mm-hmm. You'd be able to reach the wires pretty good. So let's actually try. I'm gonna grab a 4000. Okay, the 4000's at 99%, so I'm just gonna unplug this. This is a 4006S smart battery, okay? So the smart packs are sometimes a little bit smaller than other offerings, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna see if I can put this in here real quick. They high quality straps inside of here if you guys didn't already see that. These are the good kind. And to be honest with you, I don't know why they all aren't the good kind. I think it's something to do with weight and cost, maybe. And then before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we got to think about what direction the wire goes too. See that? Mm-hmm. That'll reach. So we can go either way. So we'll just go forward for now to keep things simple. And then let's go ahead and show the other thing. You see how this has Velcro on the bottom? I hate Velcro on my batteries. I hate it with a passion. So look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab this Velcro and I'm gonna take it out. Normally they would expect you to put this onto your battery. Now in fast jets and in some helicopters, it kind of makes sense to just put it in. Okay, in this case, I'm gonna show you the trick that we almost always use, and this is shelf liner. Okay, shelf liner, should we finally open this out of the package? This is shelf liner. It's called the Easy Liner, I guess, I don't know. Whatever shelf liner you want, you get that kind.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually open it. This is like a serious commitment for Brian Phillips.
I'm gonna have to use that for the next 20 years now.
This is a lot of shelf liner.
It is.
So anyway, shelf liner, if you're not sure what shelf liner is, can I show them in your drawers?
No, because there's no shelf liner in them.
What the heck? Who stole your shelf liner?
On your planes.
Is this gone too?
No, there's like literally a tiny piece in here under the measuring spoons.
Never mind. I guess I can't show you inside the drawers. But what we'll do is we'll put some shelf liner in there. And basically what this is it goes onto a slick surface and it creates friction, okay? It works like a charm. It works every time you try it, and it does work very good, okay? Now, why don't you just put Velcro on your stinking battery and stop complaining, Brian? Because that's just me. You'd have to know me to understand that. And if you've watched our videos for a long time, you'll understand. So I'm just gonna drop this sticky side down, boom, okay? And yes, I'm keeping this to put my shelf liner back up. Watch this, I'm gonna cut this. That is a very, very hard thing to do. As you can see, I have very carefully marked each edge and used a right angle. Just kidding.
That's like literally the sloppiest thing you do in your life.
That's right, because it absolutely does not matter. It does not matter. In fact, if it's bigger and a little bit larger than the actual size of the Velcro, it can help. Now, keep in mind, you can slide this back and forth and still connect your battery to the plane, because many times these straps that are located here and here, you end up missing one of them altogether to get the center of gravity right, or you miss them the other way. Now in this case, you're not going to miss them because you're going to be into this well where the landing gear goes, okay? So I'm just going to slide this in here and show you how to do this. Again, some of these steps are so simple, you're going to be like, why am I watching this video? It's like hours long. I could have literally gone and seen Mission Impossible 17 or like Saw 76.
Oh, that's way longer.
That's true. There could be a chase sequence that's multiple hours long. Yeah. You never know. Okay, so I'm gonna just turn this in here. Eat your heart out, Tom Cruise. Okay, so now I'm gonna pull this up like that. Good, it's free. That's an important step in success. Okay, then I'm gonna slide this around. Okay.
I'm wondering if you're gonna have room for that connector on top of the battery though.
I don't know, we'll find that out. That's why you do this stuff, guys. You either watch Brian Phillips RC screw it up first, or you screw it up yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, you see, good, they both moved. That is a sign of success, because many, 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 many times we've done this and they've been glued in. Okay, sounds terrible. See, now that's just gonna pull it in there, and I mean, you could literally hold the plane up by the battery now. It's not gonna shift unless you crash. If you crash, it's gonna shift.
Doesn't matter.
At that point, you'd be screwed anyway. I don't know what this is. It's probably a resistor. It is a resistor, and it's a current limiting resistor, probably for some lights. So I don't want the wire to be a problem, so I just kind of need to keep this here. Yes, I can reach the plug, so that should be no problem to reach. And now we can size up whether or not the transmitter can go here. Now, I don't like that it's on an angle like that. This would be better up here, except I don't think that's even gonna fit, because look, there's nowhere to put it. Even if I hit that void there, look at this. It's not gonna fit, it's too big, okay? Now, if you did the 631, it would fit, okay? Sorry, I had to move some chairs, folks. So now the other thing we can do is we can actually mount this vertically, which we almost never do, but then we'd have to tend to the cables. So I think really the best thing to do is to put it back there so that the antenna go forward, but then that's gonna be like hyper vulnerable. Goodness gracious.
Why?
Because how are you going to control the battery and the crush point of these? These are coax cable, okay? So there is a grounding sheath around it, and then there is a separation, an insulator, and then there is actually the transmission media, okay? So this is 28 millimeters of exposure and 28 millimeters of exposure, and that's how these diversity antennas work, okay? The exposure helps to catch and maximize the wavelength of the transmission that it's trying to pick up, okay? Anyway, in case you guys didn't know that. So if you break this, you can break this one of two ways. You can cut that off and it'll screw it up and it'll be gone, okay? Or you can cut this here and it'll be gone. Or you can crank this at a sharp angle and break it inside, because this media will break inside, and so you need to use care with these antennas. I don't know that, honestly, I think it's either this way or that. I think that's the best option. That's gonna be where it is.
I do not think that's a good option.
I think it's an amazing option.
Okay. Not my plane.
I think it's gonna go right here where it's square. Now, if you go in here and look with me, see this there? No, over here. See this? Look. When you slide this, it changes positionally. So it's either square or it's like, that's where it's gonna have to go. Like, I don't know how else you're gonna get that to work. You're still gonna be able to get in there to get your straps through. And yes, it's gonna bring all your cables here. Now, if you drop the receiver down here, you would think that'd be a good place to put it. The trouble is, this is spatially aware. It'd be nice if I could go back there. But I just don't know if I can get it back there. You see that little cavity back there? That'd be perfect. Like right here. But there's a tube there. That tube is what receives the wing spar, okay? So I'm actually touching that right now. Or what the heck am I touching? Yeah, that's where the wing spar should be. It's not wanting to go through. Let's try this side. There it goes. Okay, so oh crap, it's not lined up. Not perfectly, it's lined up, just not all the way. Show the people. See this? That's the first time we've had that in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stick the rod through the hole and I can't force,
Oh, there you
woo, just had to press harder. Well, for now, it's already in, so I'm gonna stick it in. But the idea is that is not gonna be an acceptable spot to drop that receiver. Unless, of course, we can mount it back there, but then of course we're at this weird angle, and I'm not sure I like that either. This is a tough one. It reminds me of the Viper. The Viper jet has kind of a similar configuration. I've had to build shelves for receivers, but it's very rare. And there's this little mixing board that just takes all this prime real estate, so that's annoying.
Yeah,
but you know what?
Is kind of a bummer.
Does it pull forward? Does it pull forward? Nope, it's glued in there good. So that ain't coming out, but you can see my dilemma, guys. This is one of the things we work through on this channel, and we help people to work through on this channel, is this. So we're gonna have to stick this on the side, and I think that's just the way it's gonna go.
Upside down, under
you could
that
do
mixing
upside
board.
down.
Under that.
That's actually not a terrible idea at all. So you're saying here. Oh my goodness. Wowzers. Ooh, that's a nice fit. Just gotta get your finger in there and hit the right spot.
Well.
No, seriously, there's something right here. I don't know what the heck it is.
Can you carefully put the antennas back? Because in your wires, you can make a nice little bundle coming out the front.
It's like you've done this before. You mean like that?
Fortunately, I have.
That actually is amazing.
No, that's
Holy
great.
cow, that's a perfect fit.
See,
dang it.
Why I'm here.
I hate it when you make me look like a complete moron on purpose.
Trying.
Okay, well, anyway, I will take it like a man and admit you are correct and I was incorrect. But also, like that's way better too, because I don't like this here any better.
Because there's nothing in the canopy that's gonna impede that.
Only issue is if we go like this with plugs facing forward. Okay, it doesn't matter what position you put it in, and there is a correction angle,
right?
And correction angle, so you can correct both the yaw axis and the pitch axis,
right?
Okay. Or is it not the yaw axis? It'd be the roll axis. I don't know. We'll get to it. I'll show you. It's going to happen, guys. Just wait longer.
Where's as long as you're not going to get too close to the EDF.
No, the EDF is back here.
Way back there.
The EDF is right here. Right here. Here it is. I can see it. Yeah, we're fine. It'd be better to not have all this crap here. It'd be better to bring these out, actually. So this is gonna be like that. Okay, well, that sucks because I can't actually stick it down because I won't be able to see anything while I'm working, okay? But it is good because we know what we're gonna do. And to be honest with you, it's a little bit tempting since we don't have any control surfaces hooked up to just build the plane after we have the receiver installed.
I thought that's what we were doing.
Okay, we will do that then. Challenge accepted. All right, so normally we don't do the radio setup at this stage of the game, but we are going to do it this time, because just the nature of this setup is, you know, it's actually working pretty good to do this out of order. So we'll try to slide it in. So that means we need to know where to plug all of our wires. Okay, how do we figure that out, camera crew?
We memorize it from the other 423 planes we've already done.
Incorrect, incorrect. Although that would be smart, that's not the way we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it the hard way. We're gonna have to build the model in the transmitter, which is the part where all of you veteran airplane people are like, whoa, I don't know what to do. I feel like such a child. We will teach you, children and adults. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit cancel and back and go into a menu, but I can't show you one thing, so I'm gonna go like this, and then I'm gonna go add new model, and then click. Not the one we did the other day. We don't know when it's gonna lay out. So we're making an acro. If you were doing a heli or something like that, you could do different stuff. Okay, we're gonna do this. That's an acro, create. You're probably thinking to yourself, Self, why am I watching such a long video with such a goof in charge? That's because Brian Phillips RC shows you how to do all the steps instead of part of the steps. I'm gonna tell you how many times when I was trying to learn, I went and I found a channel and they would help you with one part of it. We will show you from opening the box to while this thing is flying. Hopefully not crashing. Okay, model select, we were just there. Model type, we already did that. If you reset that, it'll reset all the parameters. Model name, this is where you type in the name. 173 models is in my NX10. You can have up to 250 before you run out of model memories, but I also have another memory card right there. So you have internal ones about here, and it's mounted flat. So if you were to take off this front, you would see it right there. This one's the external one, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and type in Avanti V3 70mm. We'll be right back. All right, so we have the FMS Avanti V3 70mm. I always put a size class because you won't believe me now, but you'll have another Avanti in a different size class someday, and you're gonna wanna be able to differentiate them. Now the questions about when they're releasing the other ones start.
I saw an Avanti today.
Cool. Aircraft type. We have one aileron and one flap. Now, just to be clear, if you had the more channels, you could set up a wing type that looks something like this or that if you really wanted to go crazy. But this would be the way most people would do it, and you would set up crow in most cases. So you'd have spoilerons on the outside and flaps on the inside. And then you would keep having all the rest of the features. I am gonna just set it up like this because there's one channel for ailerons and one channel for flaps, even though there's two ailerons and there's two flaps. There's only one channel for each, and they're shared via a Y cable. Okay, so the tail type is normal. Standard image. Let's see what we got here. What do we have? These are just an image, it's just a label. Well, we'll do the Habu, that's good enough. Do we really not have anything that's...
No, there's a better one than that, back towards the front.
Oh, really?
Like that one or something.
That's a prop-driven plane, it's the F-27.
No, not that one.
You want it to be, the Rafale? Or whatever that is?
Might be closer than the... We always do the Habu.
I'm still waiting for you to be right.
What?
Where is it? No, we're gonna do the Habu. So the Habu is what we're gonna pick, even though it's not the exact same plane. Good enough for me. Okay, flight mode setup. Now this is setup you do have to do if you're gonna use AS3X and SAFE. Okay, so I'm gonna make my assignment. Now let's talk about this for a sec. This is gonna be my retracts, down, up. Okay, this is gonna be my flaps, normal flight mode, takeoff flaps, landing flaps. It's already selected switch B because I have that highlighted. This one's not gonna be used on this model unless we set up some special feature. This is gonna be switch D. Now why D? Because it's harder to get to than it is to get to B, but B is used for flaps, and I use flaps all the time in flight. I call it out during my flight so you guys can tell. And then gear are always reserved for switch A. In my case, I have trouble getting to the I switch. I wouldn't use that for this type of feature anyway. I have a really hard time getting to switch E. Quick F, same thing. I can get to it, but it takes me a second to kind of come off the controls. I can get to G fast, but that's reserved for thrust reverse. And then this is my throttle cut. And I'll show you when we set that up. This is gonna be for master gain on the gains for all 3 axes of stabilization. And so switch D is what we're gonna pick.
F is dual rates next one.
Whoops, yeah, that's right. Okay, so switch D. Now, if we go to next, you can see flight 1, flight 2, flight 3. So it's gonna show you which one's on. And that's all there is to it. Then we're gonna do spoken flight mode. Now, just to be clear, these are just labels. This is a visual label that goes about here in the normal mode. Okay, once you get out to the function list and then you get out to the normal flying mode, you'll see what flight mode you're in. Now, I don't want it to say flight mode 1 and I don't want it to say F mode 1. Like F mode 1, I hate that mode. It's not gonna be that. It's gonna be AS3X. So we have to scroll all the way down to about here and we'll show you. All right, so we're almost here. So we'll just show you as we approach. Stabilized mode is not what we're looking for. There's safe. And now here's AS3X mode, okay? Okay, so then we want to change what it actually says too. So you can highlight and cancel, cancel, clears the whole thing. Then we can type in the word AS3X or the letters, the acronym AS3X. Okay, so once you have this, just keep in mind this is not actually making any setting, it's just a label. So flight mode 3, this is where we're gonna do safe. So I'm gonna scroll in the word safe, which stands for sensor assisted flight envelope. All right, so safe, and then we wanna go in here and scroll way down again and we'll put in safe. Okay, here it comes. Oh boy, almost there. Safe mode. And you're like, but what do you do in the middle? I do off. Listen. Oh. So off is like right above those other 3. Not silence, you want off. Then I'm gonna cancel, cancel, and type the word off. Now remember, again, just to reiterate for like the 4th time, and I'm reiterating this on purpose, you need to understand this is just a label. Now, when you get out to regular flight mode, it's gonna call that out every time there's a conditional change in the state of switch D, right? So now, channel assign, I wanna change auxiliary 2 off of B. I'm just gonna click inhibit, and that's all I should have to do. I think the rest we're gonna play with later. Wait, this is always the one that I have to then assign later. Right knob is already assigned to aux 3. This one's gonna have to be assigned to something, but I can't remember what. It's definitely not gonna be to switch B because that's what we're gonna use for flaps. Flaps is reserved with the NA.
It'll be D, because aux 2 will be stabilizer.
No, this just needs to be aux 2. Aux 2 just needs to be aux 2, okay?
Okay.
See, it could be flight mode. Yeah, we'll do flight mode.
Okay.
That's what we'll do, okay? Now, if you don't have this set right now, you can come back and set it later. Switch D ultimately will be the thing that changes aux 2 though, right? We'll talk about that later, but yes, we're gonna set it to D. Flight mode or D actually technically would do it.
I would think so.
So now we'll walk out. Now, just so you guys know, there's also another screen that says next. And you see how this says aux 2 is tied to aux 2, aux 1 is tied to flaps. That's why it's NA'd out on the first screen. You see how it says NA, 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 NA. Primary flight control surfaces are not allowed to be changed here, but you can mix them out. Which, by the way, if you wanna know how to do that and you don't know how to do that, watch the video that we did that I can't talk about yet. So come back over here. Sorry guys, I know I just trailed you out for something, but we used an AR410 and we had to mix out the rudder control, but then we used channel 4, which would have been the rudder, to do some stuff to control the mode.
They've probably seen it.
You probably will have seen it, but I don't know that for a fact. Okay, so now we can walk back out. This is our normal mode. See how it says AS3X?
Off. Safe mode. Off. AS3X mode.
And I wish you would talk faster. AS3X, you've crashed mode. So anyway, that's what's happening. It's just a label. We haven't actually assigned any settings yet, but guess what we can do? We can also go in and set up throttle cut right now. So throttle cut, highlight it, choose your switch, switch H, and then look down here. This is your little monitor. You can see it's not running, but it is now. Now it's live. Okay, so we're good to go. Then throttle curve, we're not messing with. This isn't a helicopter flap system. We're gonna set that to switch B, but we're gonna leave them all neutral because I don't wanna overdrive the servos on the wing because we haven't hooked up the stupid attachments with these, okay? If these are already installed, I would set it one way or the other and I would just like the flaps would go down or the flaps would go up and it wouldn't be a problem. The trouble is because I don't know what position it's in, you might actually overdrive into the foam and damage the servo, which is especially important if you're doing this on not an Avanti that's foam, but something that's fiberglass or something that's balsa wood, because you'd have like a plywood mount and you can drive in and burn it. It's toast. We've only done that once and it was on a Hanger 9 model.
And it happened fast.
And those were expensive servos.
Yeah.
They're like 45 bucks each. Okay, so walking out. Okay, so now you'll notice that I didn't set it up. That's on purpose because we don't know where it's gonna go, but I will still set it to 2 seconds, okay? All right, mixing we're not messing with. Timer we'll set to, I'm just gonna err on the safe side and say 3 minutes with a 1-out timer, but we are gonna have telemetry for pack voltage. 1 minute, I want it to talk to me. 20 seconds, nothing. 10 seconds, talk to me. Tone and vibrate at expiration with a tone every minute thereafter. It's a little bit tempting to have a 30-second warning on a Jag.
Are you gonna listen to her?
No, but I'm gonna still have her talk to me so I can ignore her, make her
Maybe
feel
we should
special.
set an alarm on this one.
Well, we're not gonna do that either. We're gonna put the screen, can't even show you yet because the telemetry has not activated the screen that's gonna be over here. So this is like the normal screen. This is gonna be your monitor mode. Then it's gonna go to more features that are gonna be called out from communication with the AS3X equipped with telemetry receiver, okay? So that's important because once that happens, then we can bring up the actual voltage and there'll be like a little picture of the battery and you can see that there. So as you fly, you're gonna draw down the voltage and when you get out of throttle, it'll recover some and then you'll draw it down and it'll recover some and you'll draw it down and it'll recover some and pretty much you'll draw it down and it won't recover anymore and it'll draw down and then it won't recover anymore and then a tree pops out of nowhere and you crash if you're not careful. But
Right.
just listen, on YouTube and you're an expert, you don't crash ever, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's why you don't get spare props either.
Yeah, that's just a hilarious inside joke. So if you're new to the channel, I crash all the time. It's all right, I'm not an expert and I do crash. All right, so what are we doing next? We have to land some wires. This is so weird, we're building the plane second. Okay, look, right there.
Okay.
What do we have?
Throttle. Aileron. What do you have?
So we have throttle right here. Okay, here's throttle. Throw what? Throttle. Okay, so this needs to go boop like that on channel 1 because that's channel 1. Why would we use channel 1? Does it have anything to do with this screen that's on the first channel? Yes, it does. Then ailerons, right?
Yes.
You'll notice this is down below. That's so that they all fit on the screen. When you have an NX10, they don't fit if you go straight across, so they do up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down thing. Okay? So then I'm also gonna, while I'm at it, I'm gonna take this telemetry cable that we wired earlier, and that was super complicated and hard to do. That was a hilarious joke, people. You can laugh now. I'm gonna plug this in. That's gonna go just like so, okay? Then we're done with that. Okay, see how easy that was? Now at some point, we're probably gonna throw a zip tie around all these wires to keep it nice and tidy, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, I have elevator. Elevator's gonna come to port 3. So we'll just skip one and then plug in. Now, if you try to plug these in backward, there is a bit of a key. As you can see that little bump there, it's got like a D sort of shape to it. Now, this D sort of shape, just to give you an idea, is very small. It's this little corner that's at 45 here and a corner that's at 45 here. It can be pressed in wrong. Okay, this is a de-energized plane. Where's gear going?
5.
Okay, I'm gonna try to stick this in backward just to show you. There's correct. Watch this, just so you can see that it can be done and it will be done. It goes in backward. It's not supposed to, but it does. It's better once all the pins are populated, but just to let you know that can be done, so be careful. All right, we have rudder. Rudder goes where?
4.
Okay, so rudder. We're just bringing all the orange lines to the top. That signal is orange, plus is red on all the different styles of cable that we've ever seen. Brown is negative and black is negative. So the Futaba color code is right here, black for negative, then red is positive, and then white is signal. And then Hextronics JR, which is the precursor to the Horizon Spectrum lineup. And that's gonna be orange, red, and brown for ground, okay? Then flaps are gonna be on channel 6, pluggable channel 6, auxiliary 1. Okay, then we have ailerons. Where's ailerons going?
2.
Port 2. Okay, so I'm gonna just jump this over so that's lined up nicely. And I'm gonna stick it in the hole. Ooh, yeah, that was nice. Okay, so as you can see, folks, we have all the wires landed in the appropriate ports now, if they were labeled right. I assume they are labeled right, and you will assume they're labeled right until you find out otherwise. We will be testing many different ways to validate our concerns that this could be mislabeled. They are generally not mislabeled, so I only say that because we are going to do that, okay? You see what I just did there? I took a giant mess of wire and I tamed it with singular wire that was part of the wiring in and of itself. Now, a couple different trains of thought. I want these to not come undone, so I'm going to press them very hard, and I noticed that my aileron port was not plugged in very securely. I have used hot glue and run along this joint, and I have not. And I have done many other different techniques to keep those wires penetrating all the way. You want deep penetration, full penetration. If you don't get full penetration, it'll be unsatisfying and you will have problems.
Well, you don't want anything to slip out.
You definitely don't want that. But you also don't want to slip into a tree.
No, you don't.
And if you have a missile rail that catches it, then that's going to be a big problem, folks.
Luckily, there's no missile rails on this plane.
Well, no, I like missile rails, just not when they catch leaves and trees. Okay, so you'll see I did one zip tie, and you're like, that's the place you're going to put your zip tie? Why, Brian? Why? Why? Shaking the tablet saying, I can't follow the links, I'm on an iPad. Or whatever complaint you have. If you don't follow the links when you buy from the links that we have asked you to buy from, then we don't get credit and it helps to basically hurt us. So if you like these videos and you want to see more of them, buy the stuff from the links. If you're on a smart TV and you don't know how to follow the links, go to your computer later on, or your cell phone or your tablet where you can actually go down and view the description. Go to your history, just click on your little, there's like an orb that's got your icon on it. And mine has a picture of me from like 400 years ago. I look like a kid. And I've got earmuffs on like I was piloting an airplane. I was actually the passenger, if you guys want to know. My dad was piloting at the time, and it was in a Mooney. But anyway, that picture, you click on it, and if that's your icon, then it's going to bring you to your channel, and you can see history. It should be over here. It'd be like one of the choices, one of the shortcuts. Go to history, you'll see the video you watched, and all the other ones you watched. So when you click on that, you'll see my video somewhere.
So when you tell your wife, hey, I just watched this video, can you go find it? And then she has to scroll through like 87 other videos.
87 other videos.
From earlier today.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Are you having trouble?
I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna get this wire up in here. Because you see what I'm trying to do is I'd really like to, you see, it's not held together very good. So what I'm doing is I'm twisting this. Now, when I twist this, I'm doing this in a way that's not going to apply enough pressure to undo anything, okay? You see that? It's just gonna make it all kind of stay in one spot. But this wire that I twisted around it, it just doesn't wanna stay. That's just one singular LED lead that has a current limiting resistor in it. How do I know? Because I've made them myself and I can tell from looking at it. I do wanna probably do a second zip tie here because I just don't want that to unwind. Because once it unwinds, it's gonna get unwieldy. And we don't want unwieldy because what happens when it's unwieldy?
I'm just worried you're making too big of a bundle to shove in the hole.
I'm not shoving it in the hole necessarily. That's the thing. But if it gets unwieldy, what happens? Do you know?
If it gets unwieldy?
You might lose your penetration. And if you lose your penetration, what happens to your ailerons, for example?
They might slip out.
No, they stop working.
That would be bad.
And then you hit many trees.
Yes.
Or houses or neighbors or whatever it is.
Luckily, we don't have any of those.
Trees or neighbors?
Only lots of trees.
Yes, only a few.
Less neighbors.
That's right, there you go. Okay, so now you're speaking my language. I wanna try and see if I can push this back. If I can't push it back, then I'm gonna reevaluate. Oh, that's a pretty good fit though, if I can just get it to go. Problem is when you force it, it is kind of tough on stuff and you may actually unplug a cable back there. So just be careful, please. That's a little tighter than I wanted it. You see these two are fine, but I just feel like I don't want to push too hard and have problems with the others. There it goes, guys. It's actually in there. Like, I don't even know if I have to tape it in there.
Hit the bind button. Okay.
You guys hear me pressing the button?
Yeah.
And then these two are going to be super, super easy to deal with. I can do a perfect setup for that. I feel like that's going to be fairly easy.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about this. I am very tempted to pull on these antennas to get this out. That's so bad. Don't do like I did.
Why are you taking it out?
I gotta tape it up there. I can't just leave it loose.
No.
It's pressure fit pretty good actually. But truthfully, it's so tight up there, I could probably just China glue it. It's a little bit tempting. So
Easier to slide
there
in.
is a certain train of thought that people like to see foam on the bottom of their receivers for like some vibration isolation. That's a bunch of malarkey. You don't need that on a foamy. You might on a balsa wood plane that's got a gas engine on it, or a nitro engine, or whatever you want to call it, whatever fuel source you're doing. Diesel, water, nitrogen. I'm just kidding about all those other ones. But if you have a gas engine, it's going to have more vibration than an EDF. And if you have a gas engine on an EDF, I want to see that design. I was thinking about that. That would be so cool. If you could have, instead of like a turbine powered plane, that would be so cool if we could have, I have to get something to, these come from Lemon RX receivers from years ago. And I used to use, sometimes I would use Velcro, and so I ended up with some extras. And Velcro does work pretty good if you want to have an accessible, or if you're trying to share receivers, like if you're really on a tight budget, that's one thing you can do. But I'm gonna just warn you right now. If you share receivers, you're looking for problems, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna forget to reverse a channel and you're gonna crash a plane. Okay. So those were from Lemon RX receivers from years past. Yeah, that was kind of hard to push in there.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's in there. I mean, it's in there. I'm just fighting the wiring, you know, because there's just like so much crap going on there. Then these two antenna, it's not in there square is the only problem. I gotta push it back a little bit. Oh yeah, that felt really good. It made me feel like really quality install. Okay, now we're gonna get these antennas fixed in a proper spot right now.
Using,
A knife, obviously.
I thought you were gonna tape them.
Ooh, there's another way. Here's the other way. You get yourself a toothpick. Okay, I'll show you the other way. There's two ways. I never know which one's gonna work crappier, so I pick the hardest one and do that first.
Yes.
Then when that fails, I do the easy thing. We're gonna try to do it the unstupid way today. Okay, so noting that this thing needs a little bit of a ledge to kind of come in here when it closes, okay? I'm gonna take my antenna. I'm gonna just cram this thing in. Okay, paying attention to the thickness of the material. I'm actually thinking about making a pocket here and then making an entry like that. I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna do that. And you're like, but you're not gonna put your antenna in up there. No, I'm just trying to make a pocket. So you see what I'm doing here? Look, I made a pocket now. So now I have a pocket, and then I have an entry point right here, okay? That's gonna get me into the channel, right? So watch this, guys. Boop. Well, gotta get it stuck in there, a little better angle. Okay, so now I got an angle. Oh yeah, look at that, guys. Pretty nice. I'm just not in the deep channel yet. Ooh, yeah, there it is. You guys see what I did there? It might be kind of hard to see on camera, but I can see the thing sliding out because it's just very, see, I'll just show you this way so you can see how deep that is. Shouldn't be very hard to imagine. Okay. In fact, I'm just gonna pop out this singular ball of foam, which I don't know if you guys ever knew this, but these foamies are made of little bowls of foam, individual bowls of foam that are heated and then they expand. And this is called EPO. And there's other types of foam that are somewhat inferior and a little bit more chemically reactive. And so if you use the wrong type of CA on them, you'll melt the actual foam. And this is not working as good as I had hoped, folks. So I'm gonna have to ream that hole a little bit better. Oh good, I wasn't even going in the right opening. Hate it when that happens. Can definitely lead to problems too. Okay, so I'm gonna actually just bend this slightly. See if I can, it's just not wanting to start is the key. Once it's going down there, it'll be fine. Resistant, oh, there it is, guys. I found it. I found the channel, the deep channel. Now I'm gonna see if I can push it down a little bit, just a touch further. Yeah, that should go down all the way, but it's just not wanting to go. It's probably just like one little foam. There it goes, guys. Okay, great. So now the antenna, the most critical portion of the antenna is gonna be protected. Now I can just figure out where this is gonna relax so that it can kind of be out of the way. I wish this would go down further. I kind of am kicking myself. I don't like the way that that worked. So now the other way you can do it that actually does work as well, I know it doesn't seem like it will, but it does, is you can lay this where you want your wire to be, and then you can cut a very shallow channel, and then you just make a channel to it. It actually works really nice. Just don't cut so deep that it goes out of the side of the plane, because then you're gonna feel kind of dumb having done that. But you see what I did there? Now, this can actually get pressed in to that channel, okay? Now, you don't have to do it my way. This is just the way I'm doing it, okay? This is admittedly a subjective process, but I do want you to pay attention. See, now it's going in nicely. Yeah, see, it literally disappears. It is literally one with the plane, okay? See that? Very, very limited amount of vulnerability. Now I just need to make sure the way that the antenna is positioned is not gonna get it. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's not even gonna touch. I'd like to see a little bit of this excess taken up here, but it ain't cut deep enough. So now that's perfect. Now it's going in and down like this. So diversity means 90 degrees of that, 90 degrees of that. That's not 90 degrees, that's parallel. 90 degrees, you know, there's only so many 90 degrees. So what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to go back the other direction on this penetration, okay? So if you figure out 90 degrees of that is the ideal penetration. Plus you have some more material here, but you don't wanna come into this and this here. See this? If I penetrate from too low, it's gonna pass through that. So I'm gonna start my penetration up here and I'm gonna go like that, okay? Now, if you want a better reach, you can grab this by a pair of needle nose pliers or by a pair of forceps. Now you should have that much penetration. That's plenty to get this in there, okay? Watch. Since this one's going into just plain foam, that's how easy it should be. See how much easier that one was? Now we just have to figure out where we're gonna put the rest of the unused antenna. And this is not as critical as the rest of it, but we do have to make a path for it. So I'm gonna try doing the same technique we did earlier and just see if I can get away with it, because that worked pretty sharp. Sometimes this works really good and other times it doesn't work really good. It just kind of depends on the day, I think, and whether or not I've worked really, really hard to make it work, or if I was just being lazy and it just happened to work perfectly on my first effort, like this one. See how nice that is? And you're thinking to yourself, Brian, you just cut your plane for an antenna? You better believe it. Because here's the thing, I don't want to think about this every time I load my battery. I just want to load my battery and forget it exists. And that's why I do this, folks. I don't do it for the antenna while I'm in flight. I don't care about that. If you crash your plane and it damages the antenna, which by the way, the secondary reason that this is such a nice method is that when you do crash, if you do crash, you don't have to worry about your antenna. It's going to be popping out of there if it needs to. But while you're loading your battery, you don't have to worry about sliding the battery in along the side of the plane, okay? It's just gonna basically be in a pocket and it's protected. Just don't cut or damage your antenna as you're doing this. So remember, I'm pressing against it with just a little bit of force, and that little bit of force is all that I'm pressing with. I'm not pressing with a lot of force. I'm pressing with a little bit of force, just so as to seat it. And you're like, okay, well that looks like child's play. Looks fairly easy. And you would be correct in your assessment. So now I'm gonna take some tape, just run of the mill, whatever the Scotch tape. This happens to be relatively clear tape, which is kind of nice. And I'm just gonna cut a few chunks. And all I'm gonna do is literally cover up all the different areas that I see I might catch it when I'm sliding my battery in and out, okay? Remember, not a beauty contest. You just need this to be somewhat protected in the channel. And if you were to crash, don't worry, it's still gonna pull out. I promise. I've done it before, that one time. See? Now when you slide your batteries in, you can't accidentally catch it and pull it out and damage it. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side real quick, which again is very easy. So we got a little piece of tape here. Are you gonna show people?
Yeah, I was checking the mics.
It's clear, huh?
I was just checking the mics.
Oh, okay, thanks, sorry. So there, that's stuck down, super easy peasy. And then this thing here, you can see I've got this little loop, and I don't like that loop at all. In fact, I dislike it enough, I'm gonna see if I can press it back, but I don't wanna make a kink in this cable. Okay, so I am gonna tape that. You're like, but Brian, how are you gonna tape that? How do you get your fingers in there? Flat bladed screwdriver, stick it to the tip, get it back in here, tape it, done, okay? So use the tip of your flat screwdriver to deliver the tape into the awkward spot and then press it with your fingers like normal. Okay, so the antenna's installed. The receiver is technically installed. It's ready to bind, but since no surfaces are attached, it's gonna be really hard to continue with this process until we actually get some feedback from actually hooking some of this stuff up. And so really for us, our next move is pretty straightforward. Our next move is to actually assemble the plane. Now, admittedly, it's strange that we would build the plane in this order. We would build it after the radio setup, but there are times that we've built planes in this order and it does work pretty nice. And the reason it works so nice is because if you're like me and you get to having a wing that makes you reach way far out, it's really hard on my back. And so you might have the same issue. So as you can see, look at the cable management.
Yeah.
That looks better than it did when we
Super nice.
started, and it didn't look bad when we started. We've seen, way worse planes. Okay, now, can we actually get the antenna on, or not the antenna, the lid? So let's just go ahead and not power this. So I'm just gonna pick one of the two cables. So I'm gonna take the black to the black. This is gonna simulate plugging it in. You can see we have plenty of reach. And then if we were to do a voltage alarm, it would sit over here, okay? Which we're probably not gonna do a voltage alarm since we literally have telemetry. And let's see if this antenna, let's see if the canopy goes on. Goodness gracious. And it doesn't. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Brian, why didn't you check that before? Because I knew this was a possibility and it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna have to either carve or I'm gonna have to make a decision on how I locate the battery. But remember, we were trying to see if we were gonna mount our receiver here, okay? So now that we have established that this can be mounted either direction, remember I have a strip of Velcro on the bottom of this battery. So it's in my case, I don't usually have Velcro on there. So I'm gonna turn it this way and see if it's a little bit shorter. Sometimes these batteries are taller in one direction than they are in the other. So we're just gonna try this first. Might as well try the easy thing first. Okay, so pull that through, pull that tight. Okay, so everything fits. It seems okay so far. Take your wires, do not break this connection inside. That's the way you do it, is you're careful with your connections. I am gonna connect the black to the black, simulate connection, but not actually connect. See, not connected on both pins, but we have it at least connected enough to test. Now, you could put that on there, but I'm gonna suggest that at this point, I don't want that wire going down because it's gonna be the thick wires down there up against this bulkhead. And I could try the wires going that way. So that's the one thing we haven't tried yet. So we're gonna try that. Camera crew was mentioning that earlier, and that was back when we had all the cables in the way, okay? So we're just gonna literally take the wires and point them the other direction. And then when we're ready and we get our CG worked out, we'll actually mark inside of here the location of the battery, the size of the battery, and the direction of the arrow is gonna indicate where the wire comes out, okay? Come on now, there we go, finally got it. Okay, so we can just stick this down here, and I think we're gonna wanna go the other way. It seems like it's a little bit shorter that way. Yeah, that's gonna be, ooh, we got a nice little strip here, furry strip. So it's awkward. I don't like having Velcro on my batteries. I don't know if I mentioned that like 70 or 30 times in the last 5 minutes. But it gets sticky and gross, and then you heat up your battery during a tough flight, and next thing you know, it's slipping on you, or worse yet, it releases at the worst opportune time. This is all held in. It's held to a piece of balsa wood or ply. In this case, it's plywood, okay? So I'll be able to get this wire plugged in, no problemo. It's probably a little bit more problemo than before, but it's definitely gonna work. Like I said, negative to negative, again, simulating a proper connection, and everything looks pretty good to me. Let's see if this goes. Ah, would you look at that, Miss Camera Crew? It fits, and it fits well. So what have we learned from this? We've learned, build your planes out of order, follow Brian Phillips along for the worst possible order of operation.
Listen to your wife. Man.
She's always right, except for when she's wrong. Okay, so now when we're ready to put this all together, we'll mark it with an arrow that says that way, and we'll kind of indicate where it is. But we need to get the CG tested, and that happens at the end of the build. So our next move in this plane is, might as well just leave the battery in there. There's nothing wrong with it. Might as well leave that on. By the way, if you ever have one of these doohickeys, the release for the canopy, and it doesn't want to actually penetrate, I have had problems where this thing is too big and it won't penetrate every time. You can lubricate this with some dielectric grease, or you can use some white lithium grease, or you can use some Dawn dish detergent, or you can use some whatever you got lying around, or you can ream this hole with a screwdriver, like a Phillips screwdriver. You can just take it and just ream that hole a little bit. And it doesn't take hardly any. The difference in dimension is just because of an asymmetry, or a misalignment is almost always what it is. Don't sand these though, you'll rough them up more than you think. Okay, you see that? It didn't fall in. It's not falling in because it's not aligned. You have to press this down. You see what's going on there? See, now it's in. You gotta watch that. That's tough. That's gonna be easy to miss. And you're gonna be flying by like 100 miles an hour, it's gonna go, woo! It's gonna make that noise too. Which is gonna be almost worse.
Great.
But I'm gonna tell you something. When you open that thing up, guess what happens right here? That's called friction. And it's gonna go like that. It's gonna act like a control surface. That's gonna cool off your ESC nicely, but it's also gonna scare the crap out of you. And once you change your drawers, you're gonna have to land with this like weird third elevator. Glad we had this conversation. Now you know. All right, so let's go ahead and put the tail section on first. I can actually probably power this down since we're done for a minute. By the way, I also suggest whenever you're setting up a model, always power everything down before you go fly. Power it back on. Make sure you go through at least one full power cycle. You should be doing that. It's just a good idea, and it's gonna help to avoid some of these technical issues that I have heard people have that I never have. And partly because, you know, I'm lucky, partly because of where we fly. Maybe there's a little bit less interaction with other RF, but I think partly it's because I generally always end up powering them off for a moment. Okay, so we have two elevator wires here. One's gonna plug into here, and one's gonna plug into here. They both say ELV. So, and then this one says RUD.
Oh.
Okay, so this is the RUD. I'm actually gonna cheat. I have brown going down toward the tip of my finger, toward my belly, and I have brown going down toward my belly. You have to look at them separately sometimes. And then this is a little keeper that's gonna keep that from undoing easily, but it's just plugged in now. Okay, now I'm gonna take this, and you're like, why aren't you putting your control linkages on there? Brian, why don't you take an XPC battery checker? Brian, why don't you do that? Just take your XPC battery checker and plug in a 1300 milliamp 3S. Brian, why don't you do that? And then go to the servo tester menu right there. Why don't you do that and just center your servos? Why do you always waste so much time doing it this harder way than you have to? Because all it would take is for you to do this on every single one in your entire plane. Okay? Why don't you just do that, Brian? And then move those things and make sure they're working, or double click and make it go through a sweep. Why don't you do that, Brian?
We're making short videos, people. We don't have time for this.
That's right. The reason we don't do that is because this absolute center, and I know you guys are gonna think it's a bunch of BS, might be 1 degree off from the absolute center from the receiver. Now, again, that is just, when you work on machines for a living and you see them broken all the time, you assume naturally that they're broken this time too. Now, that's not to say that they're actually broken. It's just more a matter of fact. So I'm gonna just trust the thing that does the stuff for us on the plane. And to be honest with you, it doesn't really save you any time. There are occasions where you have to glue components together. Then you're stuck doing stuff like that, okay? Like the A10, when I plugged in one of my wires backward, that was embarrassing. It was a stupid mistake. It was avoidable by using the XBC battery checker, which is one of the best tools that you should absolutely have in your tool bag. They're only like $50-something, and you will use the heck out of that tool.
We probably didn't have that tool when you did that wrong.
Actually, we would have been just getting it, I think. Because that was like a pretty early one when the SAFE stuff was coming out. That was back when I was eating my crow for having said that SAFE was stupid.
No, not
Or
safe.
smart, or smart.
Batteries. Yeah.
Did you, smart what?
Who?
See this? Those need to be in that little relief, okay? And then once you get them in the relief, you can take these two wires, you can very carefully align them so that they lay flat and they occupy the space right here. And then you can walk them under. Or you can have a helper that's holding a camera, let go of the camera and do the other thing that you can't do. Hopefully they're not filming for you. Okay, now I'm gonna drop this down. Very nice fit, very easy. Wow. Oh man, I wish it were always that easy. That'd be so nice. And then this tape is not necessary anymore, but if you wanted to use it for something, you could. Okay, so now I'm just gonna drop this down into this cavity, you see? You see, right here, yeah, don't you know? So I'm just gonna throw away the tape. That's all I'm doing.
Oh, good job.
I would usually let you do it. I don't wanna take anything from you. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my bolts. They are all the same size, folks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that means we're probably gonna need 7, okay? All the same. These are gonna drive with a 2mm drive, almost certainly based on past experience. Okay, so 2mm drive meaning this size. Okay. Oh yeah, that's not there. Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, hold your.
Would you hold my
nuts for you?
Those aren't nuts, those are bolts. Here.
That's not fun.
There you go. Tight like a tiger. Now you'll notice this is blue, so it makes it easy to see, and that's unusual. Usually be a white color match, but I'm gonna look for a pucker right here, and I'm gonna look for smooth flush here and here. This needs to tighten. You see how tight that is? Good lordy, lord. This is actually tightening a lot. Okay, very easy fit, very non-problematic. Also notice that my thrust tube is red. I want to get that checked out.
Are you trying to use your hands as much as you possibly can?
If I had 3, I would use 3. Do you know why I do that?
Why are you doing
It's
that?
faster.
I know, but you're blocking the people.
Well, you can
Trying to
imagine.
watch you screw.
All I'm doing is screwing the plane. What's there to see? Okay, so getting back to the point, camera crew's trying to distract me again. I'm just gonna throw these wires. Uh-oh.
You stuck them in the wrong
Nope.
spot.
Now that's in. Now that's in. I couldn't get the tip in. There's a little detent up there. Now what I'm doing is I'm gonna take these wires and I'm just gonna gently press them into the middle as I slide this down, and I'm gonna make sure both sides are free, and they are, but I'm feeling some, oh, son of a biscuit lover!
Oh,
Those screws are supposed to go in from the top.
that's why they went in so far.
I did feel like there was a lot of penetration happening. I mean, not in a bad way. It was just like extra deep.
More than you needed.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unscrew these, and then we'll just go through this plastic, which actually is great. I was thinking, boy, this is really robust, but.
Hey, there's things that they make when you're like putting things
Are
together.
you gonna tell me about instruction manuals again? Like I've never heard of those? What are those things? So instruction manuals, and now there's gonna be at least one person that's like, see, Brian, wasting everybody's time. I'm unsubscribing, and I'm gonna.
Buddy, if you're an hour and 38 minutes into the video, you're not unsubscribing.
Yeah, Brian, come on, hurry up, get to it. I'm in a hurry. Oh man, my toilet wine's almost done. Jeez, I made 3 batches already for just one video. If you guys don't know what toilet wine is, just look Just look up prison.
Look that up.
Look up prison techniques for making alcoholic beverages. Why prison? Why prison?
Do they really do that?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Gross.
I know. Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do when you're in the pen. Listen. Don't make fun of my pen.
I know. Don't stab your plane.
Listen. I'm trying to appeal to the prison audience. I've got my shit here. If you're in prison, give us a thumbs up right now.
I wish we could tell when people thumbs up a video.
So funny story. I had a guy, we went to RC Fest, and he came up and he was acting like a prisoner. And I'm like, what is wrong with this weirdo? You know, of course we're in person. And so I think he kind of got the impression I thought he was really a prisoner, which he wasn't. Anyway, long story short, turns out he was the guy who flies SR-71s and all sorts of other cool, like B-2 bombers. And then he had finished his career at TWA. So you know who you are.
Send us some toilet wine.
And so it was just a hilarious joke.
Was so funny.
But I was
so
like,
nice.
I was talking to somebody else, so I kind of felt bad because like I didn't connect the dots. I was feeling kind of overwhelmed at the moment. And anyway, not because of the prisoner comment. I thought it was hilarious once I connected the dots. But it was totally, I was like, wow, we have real prisoners watching us. No, I'm sure we do have some prisoners. If you're in prison, thanks for being our subscribers, longtime supporters. You're one of the few that watch the whole video. And if everybody else could just do that, it'd be great. All right, this plane is heavy with that battery in there. It's like kind of dense. I'm noticing.
It's gonna be a fast plane, isn't it?
It's gonna be Speedy Gonzalez.
Need my extra something before we film.
It'd be nice if I didn't have to just screw the plane by myself.
I only have one free hand.
Well, it's a lot you can do with that.
I need it.
I have 2 additional screws, guys, and then this plane is built. Honestly, I gotta say, this plane has gone together like really easy because if you think about it, our radio setup is mostly done. We have to do flaps, we have to do the CG, and then we have to do SAFE setup and AS3X setup for forward programming. So like really, like that has been pretty smooth. We do have to do all the stupid controls though, the control horns. That's annoying. Look, look what's in your hand. 1.
An extra screw.
It's the loneliest number. It's the loneliest number. 1. Actually, 0 is much more, infinitely more lonely than 1, right? All right, there you have it, guys. This plane is mostly built, almost totally built, except not at all.
It's built. Well.
I mean, if you try to launch it right now, it'd be pretty exciting.
That's true.
You can see where you're supposed to stick the things.
Okay.
If you miss the hole, if there's like 2 holes really close together, you stick it in the wrong one, you're gonna be in trouble, guys, because that means your ailerons are gonna be like hyper productive. Wow. Oh, well, that's a 5mm difference. That's not too bad. Okay, so 100 to 105. This is gonna be hard to measure though. I kind of wish they would come up with a more specific point, but they do on this one. They actually say right there at the wing root. You guys see the drawing? It shows the wing root for once. Thank you, FMS. Usually it's like, from the leading edge, and don't mind the fact that it's like this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, when the wings go back like this and there's an intermediary portion right here, like you have an F-15 where it's part of the body of the plane, it's very difficult to tell where the leading edge is. And like every other plane that you've ever built.
It'd be nice if they just like marked the CG.
Yeah, why don't they? They already have the manual printed. Okay, so what's our next move? We need to actually take a second and we need to, we're gonna mark the CG on the top. We're pretty much ready to bind this plane, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, because think about it, like what else do we need to do? Well, we need to mark the CG. Once we've marked the CG, we'll elaborate on where the battery should be.
Are you testing this one upside down?
What do you mean, am I testing it upside down?
Where are you marking the CG, on the top or the bottom?
Well, the other thing too is I was just thinking we need to remember to charge that battery because it was only like 98% charged. We're gonna mark the top.
Okay.
So we need to put all those things in, but this tells us where to put them. So that's why this page is open. In fact, it's all on this page. It's page 10. It's like page 10's the only page you need. You don't need any other pages now that Brian's done this.
Well, then let's bind it.
What?
Right? Might as well bind.
Wait. Oh, yeah. They already have the ball links on.
Yeah.
I was just
we won't
thinking.
Even have, we don't stick it in one hole.
You might need a ball link plier if you don't have ball link pliers.
Probably should.
If you don't have ball link pliers, I'll show you what they look like right now. Ball link pliers come in more handy for taking balls off of links than they do for putting them on. But putting them on you can do without a tool, but it's very hard to take them off. Did something just come out of here, or was that the kids leaving garbage on the floor? Oh, linkage rods installation for both clevis and bullhead links.
It's like you planned it.
Before installing the main wing horizontal tail, oh, you son of a, you better not. Make sure the servos are in neutral positions, duh. Attach the Z-bend end, yeah. So they're basically saying you have to center them, which I made a gigantic mess of. So you guys already know I knew what I was talking. This was on the ground, just so you know. I missed the garbage can.
sure you
just
did.
now. That was embarrassing. All right, let's start this plane. By the way, if you're new to this hobby and you're watching me build this plane's probably not for you yet. It might be an all right, like 4th or 5th plane. And you're probably thinking, geez, I only thought I needed one. Trust me, you're still
That's
in
just
denial.
what you told your wife.
Don't worry, it's okay. Even when I started, you see all the planes in this room? There's 100 times more in this house. Well, not 100,
No.
maybe like 50 times more. That's not an exaggeration. All right, so turn on my transmitter. Okay, the transmitter's on. I'm gonna click, I'm gonna scroll down to bind. I'm gonna be ready to click yes. I'm gonna energize the plane. Ooh yeah, big old spark. Okay, now I'm gonna reach in here and just very carefully press the button. The bind button has been pressed. I can see a flashy light. Now I'm gonna click, go back down to bind. Bind. This is where I'm gonna control the plane in case the throttle comes on. Those lights are bright. I'm very glad about that. Auto config.
And they're not flashing.
Oh, yay! They're not flashing. That's wonderful. Okay.
Right.
All right, everybody, listen carefully. Things move. That's good. Also, throttle cuts on and tested. Throttle cuts off. It's blowing out the back. Throttle cuts on. Good. That's very important to test. It's not a huge problem if it's going the wrong way. You just have to access by probably taking off the wing and switch to the leads, or use a programming tool to reprogram your ESC. You can program your ESC using throttle, and there is a procedure. You would plug it in with your throttle at high. It goes into a programming mode. And you change the stick position on throttle to change the actual programming of that ESC. But you have to find a manual. I do not know what the settings are.
Just Google it.
Listen, I don't hear anything changing, which means we're not in auto leveling. If we were in auto leveling, this would change. I can change this. Wait a second. Oh, we haven't set that up. So it's not even set up. Okay, so elevator, it's moving, good. So we have elevator, ailerons, they're moving in opposite directions, that's good. Flaps are not gonna move, we already know that. But now that we have that done, we can go ahead and set the flaps so we at least know the direction they're gonna move. Okay, so the flaps are the inboard ones, okay? So we're gonna click, scroll down to flap system. I'm in this mode right now, and you see how it's pulling that direction? I want it to go the other direction. See how this one's going away from us, so we wanna go to minus 100, and then plus 100. So this would be all the way down. Okay, so now keeping in mind that with FMS planes, we can overdrive these servos to 150% in another menu, but in flap system, you can only drive them to minus or plus 100. Whoops, must have unclicked it. There you go. So 0 is not probably where we're gonna leave that, but we'll leave it there for now. So walking out of the menu, click, go into servo setup. You can also go to travel, and then for flaps, if you put it in the neutral setting, you can open up both extremes to all the way to 150. You can see how it would move and if it's gonna hit. It's not gonna hit there, and it's not gonna hit there, okay? Okay? So you can go up to 150, but I don't like being at 150. Just so you guys know, I'm gonna set these to 145. And the only reason I'm setting this high is because I can without any consequence, okay? You don't have to do that, But now what you could do is you could click and scroll down to your flap system again, and you can back this off wherever you want it, okay? I don't like going to 150 because it makes me nervous that I'm gonna run out of the pulse width modulation that's designated for that channel and into the next one. Don't ask me how I know that unless you want a very technical answer. I ended up playing in a tree. And then my friend Esteban climbed the tree and he got scratches all over him. And then the cops pulled him over because he ran a stop sign and they asked if he broke into a house. It's okay. He got out of prison really shortly thereafter.
Technical answer.
He didn't go to prison. That was just a hilarious joke. But that is really what happened.
He did get pulled over.
He like did one of these like, you know, country stops.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, you're welcome, Esteban.
You love Esteban.
So look, we're neutral for ailerons. So ailerons are supposed to be one hole in from the outside. Okay, so I'm just going to I want to line this up. Okay, so I'll line it up that way. So I'm going one hole in from the outside, which is, geez. These are only 3 holes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They show 4 holes. You know what? I'm sorry. We're going to the outside hole. I got stabilizers. I'm not messing with it. Take my finger and index, my thumb and finger. Make a pinch, hold it. Oh, that's like darn near perfect. I'm gonna hold this and straighten this just a little bit. When I snap this, that's gonna be, okay, I'm gonna go out half a turn. There's half a turn out. Now look, I'm holding it. It feels perfect, okay? So now I'm gonna take this. See how there's that little doohickey there? And then there's the fingers that like straddle it. I'm gonna take this doohickey and I'm gonna line it up on the screw here. And I'm gonna snap this on. Boop. I feel the control. And so again, as usual, disregarding the manual because it's just confusing and wrong. That's part of the reason why we admittedly don't always like worry what the manual says unless we get into a sticky spot.
Is that because you straddled the
Listen, one time I was building a plane and what now did you say? One time I was building a plane and I popped a bottle of glue. It was a real mess.
Is that when I had to cut your fingers apart?
No, I've done that with CA a few times. Okay, see this? See how I did that? I just turned this out to make it longer. I'm gonna turn it in to make it shorter. Now watch what happens. If this is too short, you remember we want this to be flush with the wing, okay? Watch what happens when it's too short. See, that's what happens. That's unacceptable. So I'm gonna go whoop, turn it out a few. Ooh, see, we're not lined up. Turn it out another 2. Get it square. Too far. Turn it back. Ooh, that's pretty good. That's about where it needs to be, okay? Now watch this. The little doohickey lines up here. Stay where you are, don't move. Then, boop. Now watch this. Watch this. I don't even know what direction it's going. It doesn't really matter, except it kind of does, and I'll tell you why. Because there is sometimes an absolute position difference. By the way, white light on the bottom looks sweet, and it's not flashing. I don't want no stinking flash. Oh, it's the wrong way. Okay, so walking out of the flaps, click, servo setup, travel, go over to reverse, ailerons, boom, done. Now watch, roll left, roll right, check both sides. Don't just check one, check both. There are times when you're gonna go through a flight controller and they will have individual channels. You must check both. Even though they're hooked together, it doesn't matter. It's your responsibility. You must check, okay? If you're a brand new pilot, it's your responsibility to check. If you're a returning pilot, it's still yours. Roll left, roll right. Okay, cool. Elevator. Ah, my elevator's not working. Flaps are also not working, and rudder's not working. Well, let's do the rudder since we're right here. Brian, why do you keep jumping around? It's so confusing. I can't follow. It's impossible.
There's no rhyme or reason to this.
There really isn't, guys. So if you beat me up on that, there's a million other things you can pick that are way more relevant. Okay, now I'm screwing out. I need to go in. 3, 4, 5, 6. I count halves. Why? Because I work on industrial scales and I turn trim pots to adjust corners on scales and sections and that sort of thing. That's too far that way. In another half, another half. You know what I just thought of? You remember how I heard like 4,000 text messages just coming through a few minutes ago? Do you want to know who sends 4,000 text messages at a time?
That's what I was thinking.
Dang it, I didn't even think about that.
I might need to check.
We might need to check. Okay. That is an inside joke story you will never hear about on this channel, guys. Plus, his Avanti, we should be okay. I don't think he's
Yeah, I
gonna
think
watch
we'll
that
be
one.
alright.
It's all right. He doesn't know who he
That'll
is.
be great.
He
Yeah.
will not watch this. Are you
No,
kidding?
he won't watch
If he's
this.
that bored,
No,
are you
he's not
kidding
that
me?
bored.
He doesn't have time to watch this.
No.
That guy, the guy. It's not the guy in prison. I can tell you that.
Nope.
That flies B2s. Woo! Okay. Rudder, correct, correct. Okay, correct, correct, perfect. Now, we have ailerons and we have a rudder. It's good enough.
You don't need an elevator.
Don't need no stinking elevator and a properly tuned sailplane, says Ian.
Totally looks like a sailplane.
By the way, Ian is a guy who sold me a sailplane. Very, very, very good pilot. Better pilot than I'll probably be in my life. And he sold me this ASH 26 and he loved it. And I could tell it hurt his soul to sell it to me. But I loved it too, and I love it. And it's still intact right now. Okay, so elevator up. That's the correct direction. Okay, so the elevator, they're saying to put it in.
There's only 3 holes in this one too.
It's going in the outside hole. Sorry. It's going in the outside hole. You want to know why? Because I would rather have too much control than not enough. If you have too much control, you can back off your surfaces or you can come in and change it. Mechanically change it later. Or you can just turn on more expo. Or you can reduce your rates. Or you can come in here and go in one hole after you've had a chance to confirm that it's too sensitive. But generally speaking, you can also put your battery further forward.
Sorry.
Further forward. No, you can put your battery further forward and make this plane more stable and nose heavy, and that will help to defeat an over excited elevator. Did you know that, camera crew? This one's a little harder because you have to measure from here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just thinking, when in doubt, you just use the outside hole.
Well, I mean, maybe.
I mean, usually the other ones are too sensitive, so.
See this right there? I need to turn this in several. So there's 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5, 6, 7 halves. Too much. 6 halves. The reason I call out the numbers is because it is a means of, self-preservation. You don't have to do it, but I do it so you guys can kind of tell how many turns I had to do. Now, show them from the end. Right along the line of this, elevator up, elevator down. Cool, good amount of throw.
Yeah.
I like it, nice. Okay, now flaps. Flaps. Flaps are the one you gotta make sure you're in normal flight mode, which I am. Okay, so now this is gonna be in the outside hole as well, right? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna put it in the outside hole. Okay, so the outside hole. And then this, I want to be flush here and here, but more here than here. I'm more concerned about here than I am here. Why? Just because I made a decision. Okay.
Okay.
That's out, that's in. Let's see how this goes. Ooh, that's pretty good right there. I like that. That feels pretty good. Sometimes by snapping them on, you change the geometry and then you have to regrettably take them off, okay? If you do have to take them off, you use this like a wedge and you go in between and you go boop and it pops them off. The problem with these is they're thick. They need to be about half as thick. I'd like to take a grinder to these and take off like half the material on both top and bottom. So if you guys are wondering, this was a gift from one of our subscribers. This is Grumpy John, right? Mm-hmm. So Grumpy John, thanks for being such a grump.
I think a couple people have sent us bowling players.
Well, another guy sent us. There was 2. Oh,
Yeah.
Tom might have sent us one too.
No.
But anyway,
else.
it was nice of them
I know
to
what
send
John
them.
did.
Yeah. But there it is. Grumpy John is gonna feel so special that we talked about him and his pigs and his raccoons. Did I
We
ever
could send him some raccoons. If you need some raccoons, John.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna do that, John. Sorry. But you should save us some pigs someday. If you ever decide to come up here, bring some pigs with you, please. He's got pigs.
Or just some bacon.
Whatever. Pigs make bacon.
Pigs are
They're cute.
They're little.
They are so cute. They're like little puppies, but they just taste better later. There it is. There it is. That's where it goes. Okay. All right. So we're just going to do this. So we've had John send us these, and then Tom sent us these too. Tom sent us some screwdrivers, and then
Tom sent us the plane stand.
who sent us this?
Too. Somebody else.
Dang it. Is it Chris? It's in here somewhere.
There used to be a sticky note.
We remember, but we lost the sticky note. Now I feel terrible. I know who it is. I can look it up. But another one of our subscribers sent us this. I feel like a jerk, I shouldn't have done that. Takeoff flaps, way too much.
Whoa.
Landing flap, ooh, that sounded bad.
You're hitting somewhere.
Okay, come around. We'll show you what I'm talking about. So just to be clear, that is too much. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the flap system and I'm gonna go to the condition that is this, and I'm gonna back it off to like 50 where we know we're safe, okay? Then I'm gonna go to that setting. Geez, that's like almost not safe already. I'm gonna highlight it. I'm looking for binding. That's pretty much it. That's all you're gonna get. Now that's if you have it on 145%, okay? So that's a barn door flap. That's what I would call a barn door flap. Let's make sure we aren't touching. So I'm gonna go back just a hair. I'm gonna go from 65 down to like 60. You know what, guys? I'm sorry to do this to you, but I gotta do this because there's somebody who's gonna ask and I'm not gonna know how to answer. I'm gonna put that back to 100, okay? I'm gonna go back to flap system. I'm gonna see if 100 gets us where we wanna be. Nope, we're still overdriven. Okay, so I'll just go to 80 now. That takes us to the home position, normal flight mode. I feel like that could go out more. Is that in my head or is that true? No, that's fine. Okay, so that's too much for takeoff. So we have minus 100. And remember, these numbers are just all about where it stops. That's all it is, okay? Then this, I'm gonna bring this back so it's more like a takeoff setting. So takeoff setting in this case is barely any, okay? So you have just a little bit, that's probably not enough. Let's go to like 50. Okay, so there's minus 50. Okay. So 0, which is actually minus 145. Okay, then there's somewhere in the middle. Then there's barn door style for landing flaps, okay? Now remember, you need to induce some drag. Oh, let's check the gear. Ooh, very nice. Oh, those are nice and soft. Deal. These ones are harder. That's what we want on the mains. Ooh, that one's not moving very good. Work these if they're hard like that. But look at this, look at this. They're not titanium, but they're pretty dang hard. And that is working correctly. Okay, so that's always good. You can compare because it goes opposite the rudder. And then my gear are in the opposite condition. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk out of the menu for the flaps, click, go to servo setup, travel, reverse, and reverse the gear. Okay, so now when I turn on my plane, the gear aren't gonna try to fall on the ground. So then when I'm in the air, I retract the gear. Oh, that's so sweet. Those are pretty fast acting. Also, there is an opening here so you can get to an adjustment that doesn't seem to exist. So that's fine, whatever. It's not the end of the world. Okay, everything works there. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna quickly set up the rest of this plane because we're getting pretty close to needing to fly. By the way, I love that there's a big bright light on the bottom. I love 3 lights, guys. I love them more if they are in a line between somehow on the tail and the main navigation tip, the tips of the wings. Sometimes on the nose is fine too. But the idea is if I have 3 points, that it's easier to triangulate the angle of pitch. These are in line and it's only visible from the bottom. So on final, you'll be able to see it. But when I'm going down like this, you won't. Problem is you're not gonna see it from all angles. If you had one up on the tip of the wing, you would have the opposite effect. So maybe they're going for, I wanna see it on the way in for final. Okay, camera crew, let's come around here. It's very important on this step, okay? We need to mark the center of gravity, but as we're testing, we wanna test with the plane lined up. Elevator up, elevator down. Roll left, roll right. Yaw left, yaw right. Don't be afraid to move stuff. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. That's a long throw. We might even have too much there, you know? In fact, you know what? I'm sorry. We can always add more, right?
It's gonna be a fast landing.
I know, you're right. But I just don't want to change the aerodynamic effect so much. Now we're gonna have to do a correction for elevators, so I'm just gonna go kind of crazy on this. So we'll do like 20, and we'll do like 12, okay? So it's usually like 2/3 and then 1/3 more, which seems crazy because we have a bigger step into the landing flaps. But the same thing just happened when we did the Ranger 1800. We have like a 30% correction on the elevator, which is huge, huge. And we will show you how to adjust that on maiden, okay? So if we have a maiden flight, we always publish the Unbox build radio setup like a minute before, just so you can watch that if you want in order and not give anything away. Then you can watch the maiden flights, or you can watch the maiden flights and then go back and watch the build if you need it, okay? So the Unbox build radio setup is what you're watching right now. We're at the point now where we're gonna do forward programming for the AS3X and SAFE. Now, why did we have to start with all the rest of the stuff? Because you can't set up AS3X and SAFE until all the surfaces are going in the right direction and they're all adjusted properly to the center position, okay? It's very important. Also, we need to check CG, so we're gonna do that right now before I forget. Okay, so the CG is 100 to 105 millimeters, so a very tight CG range, and it makes sense on this plane, okay? So on these calipers, we can go to 100, and that's good enough. So from the inboard portion of where the wing hits the wing root, now I'm gonna come out here a ways and mark it. Okay, now I'm gonna come out here, and I'm gonna come out here a ways, and I'm trying to make it symmetrical and mark it. Then I'm gonna go to 105. In this case, I'm gonna just go 5. Okay, so there's 5, that's good enough. Okay, so we'll make another mark, then we'll come over here and we're gonna mark 5 back. Okay, so 100 to 105, and then all I do is I take a marker, felt tip marker, in this case it's a Sharpie, and I just mark the points, and you're like, you just put a bump in your plane? Are you crazy, Brian? No, I'm like used to doing this. It's very easy, it works, I don't have problems. And I used to put tape, and I used to put drips of CA and drips of hot glue and all these stupid things. They just never worked as good as this. And this takes almost no time at all, and it works fine. If you wanna do it a different way, you can do it a different way, and that's totally fine. However, I'm gonna caution you, if you don't take advice from us, okay? You don't have to ever take advice from us. I just don't want to feel bad when you crash, so just keep that part to yourself if you crash because your CG is wrong. If you're a brand new pilot, getting the CG right is critical, okay? It is really a big deal. And by the way, I just put that marker away. We have to mark where the battery ends up. That's the other big tip you could take away from this. It's super helpful, and that is mark where your battery is. Now, we're going to use a 4000 on maiden, but you might end up with a smaller one. They do recommend a 3300, just so you know. So that means our battery is going to be a little bit heavier, but the smart packs tend to be a little bit lighter by the tune of about 10 to 25% lighter, which means we're right in the range of what they're expecting. Now, I don't know why that is. It's just something about the way the system works, okay? So we're gonna actually leave the lid on, okay?
We're gonna have to kind of cook.
Okay, front holes, nose heavy, back hole, nose heavy as well. Okay, so what that means for us is that this battery is either too big to use or we need to push it back, okay? So all I'm gonna do is lift that connector out. I'm gonna loosen my straps so I can slide the battery back, and we're gonna try to accomplish center of gravity by sliding this back. So it's at the first mark. We'll just tighten one of them. That'll give us enough to hold it in position so we can test. Okay, now remember, lighter battery would exaggerate the center of gravity issue less. Okay, so away from that front firewall, if you wanna call it that. Okay, remember, a little bit too nose heavy is better than a little bit too tail heavy, but it does make it harder to land on short runways. We are probably nose heavy on both again. So that means smaller battery is gonna help to accomplish center of gravity without adding ballast in the back. I'm not adding ballast, but what I am gonna do is I'm gonna move this battery back even further. See how I'm off this strap altogether? That doesn't surprise me. It seems pretty normal anymore. We get that all the time. So I'm all the way in here. It's easy to load, makes it really easy to put the canopy on. Camera crew is a little bit concerned we're gonna run out of time here. Okay, so tail heavy on the front, nose heavy on the back. Meaning, when I put my middle finger on the back hole, it leans forward. When I put the middle finger on the front hole, it goes back. That means you're centered, roughly. That's 5 millimeters. You're not gonna get a lot more sensitive than that. Okay, that's where it is. That's where I'm marking it. So then I draw a line. You're gonna have to come to the other side, I'm sorry. So then I can write 4,000 milliamp hour. And this is a 6S, okay? Now, why do I write 4,000 milliamp hour 6S? Because that's the battery we're using, and that's the arrow that's gonna tell you the direction. So now we know. Now, if I later fly with a 3200 smart pack, then I can go ahead and make accommodations with a mark there, or I can just check the CG if it's an off battery that's not the same size, make my necessary adjustments and go with it. All right, so camera crew gave me some nervousness about running out of battery. Are we running out of mics on the battery, or are we
We're
running
gonna
out?
run low on both, especially if we're trying to fly.
Oh, yeah.
And we still have to do forward programming.
Forward programming is gonna go quickly, guys. I'm gonna show you this, and it's gonna be the most important part of the radio setup for most of you. So we're gonna do it right now. Click, scroll down to forward programming, connecting. This has a serial connection back and forth, or not a serial, but it's a separate connection from the flight control. Okay, gyro settings. So you're gonna go into gyro settings, first time setup. Okay, this should go quick because we have everything set. Make sure you're blah, blah, blah. We did all that crap. You're supposed to like do a trim flight and everything. I've never done that. Okay. Set the model and continue. This is just figuring out the position of these. Okay, set it on its nose and hit continue. So I'm gonna be prepared to hit continue. Okay, so when they say on its nose, they just mean they want it to be vertical. It's not gonna be aware of its space, like moving a few feet back and forth. Should be upside down. Oh crap, we lost connection. That does happen. Whoops. That does happen. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna just lay this down. If you ever lose connection, it's not that big a deal. It does happen. You don't need to worry about it, but I just wanna back out while I'm thinking about it real quick. There's your voltage for your pack right there, 25.1. So you can actually set an alarm if you want. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into forward programming. Oh, and if you ever get locked out of forward programming because it can't find it the second time you go in, so go back to first time setup. You can skip past all this crap. It's just warnings about make sure it's all the way it's supposed to be. I do like to have this in the same orientation, as in pointed the same direction. Get in the habit of doing good things. It'll make it easier. You can set it manually. I'm just gonna do it this way. Okay. I'm gonna have you hit continue for me when I get vertical, please. Okay, hit continue and show the people what it does. Okay, got
There we
it.
go.
You see how it is?
Yep.
Is that not the way it is?
Upside down.
Upside down, and the antenna's going that way. It's kind of hard to tell on this screen, but let's just take it for granted that it's correct. Now, you can change this manually to whatever you want. We're gonna go back to 3. You see all those different positions? There's a bunch of different positions, but we're in position 3, okay? Now hit continue. Gain channel is gonna be set to this, which is also labeled right there. There it is, okay? Then we're gonna go next. We're gonna apply, it's gonna reboot. Now listen. You're gonna hear one dance. One dance. 2 dances is when safe is on. Okay, so once it's rebooted, you just jump back in. We're gonna do gyro settings, F mode setup. Okay, now we can tell it input switch D, which is auxiliary 2, not auxiliary 1. Don't pay attention to that all the time. It's not always right. See how it's changing? That means it's working. So in this mode, I want that off. Off and also active. So in AS3X, off, and auto leveling and AS3X. See how that works? Gain channel select, we already did, and it's set to aux 3, okay? Now, we wanna go to first time safe setup. We've already done this, but we always go into verify, and that's when it assigns it. Then we continue. So in flight mode 3, we want safe to be active. Don't worry about all that crap. Okay, now watch this. Level model and capture trim. Is this the way we want it to fly? It might need to be a little bit like this. It might need to be a little bit like that. Either way, just make your adjustment by sliding the model in your plane stand or put it on a table, but you want it to fly level. This is the position it's gonna learn right now, okay? See, one correction. Now watch this. Say your thing was mounted like that. Watch this. Boom. See that? That's the correction I didn't want to have by having it at a weird angle. So we're gonna do it level again. And we're gonna go back in and just relearn it. Okay, so good enough. It's within, the degrees are so minor, you know? I'm gonna do it one more time, see what happens. See what I'm talking about? That's extremely sensitive, and I'm okay with that. That's gonna be good enough. Now you can also just set this to 0, okay? I'm gonna set this to 0, okay? The pitch is probably right. And that tells you an explanation. Now, why did I set it to 0? Just because I trust it's in there square enough. And that means my plane's probably gonna be at 3 degrees now. Okay, so everything's done and I just keep going next. And then this is the setting. See how it says angle limits? Safe is gonna be self-level angle demand. Off, AS3X, and safe is also off there. But you can change your limits and stuff like that in this menu. Now I'm gonna apply, now watch. That tells you that you have safe active. Trying to put my mic next to the controls so you can hear that dance. Okay, once you hear the second dance, your system's set up. Now watch this, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right. Take off flaps, landing flaps, everything's working there, but check this out. I'm in safe. How do I know? Because it's not moving as much as it was. Now it's off and look at the throw, okay? See this? Off and then AS3X. Now, gain all the way up. We're gonna look for all the corrections. Then we're gonna test safe. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift the aileron up. I don't see anything change. Why? Because we haven't given throttle over 25%. So we have to do that. I'm gonna hold this thrust tube and just give it 25%. Okay, now throttle cuts back on. Now watch this. Up, down, left, right, up, down, up, down. Okay, I am looking for something specific. I'm going to exemplify this by going into forward programming, and I'm gonna set it from 1X to 4X. Why? So you can see it. Not 1X, but 4X. Watch this, all the way up, all the way down. Nothing, all the way, okay? See the elevator? All the way down, nothing. All the way up, halfway. You hear the difference in amplitude? Okay, so now all the way up, you can see very good. Watch the aileron go up when I lift the wing up. Up, down. You want to resist the movement of your body. When you move this, you want it to resist it. That's resisting. That's resisting. Now watch the rudder. Resisting toward the camera crew, toward Brian, toward the camera crew, toward Brian. Now watch the elevator. Up is going to be resisting up, then down. Now, you have to check both sides, up, down. This is tied together, but it's a good habit. Check both sides. Don't check your nose wheel, it gets confusing, okay? To the left, to the right, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now I'm gonna show you from this point of view what it looks like. This is the most important part of this testing. You see this? That's the direction you're moving. It's going the opposite direction. It's trying to resist. And look at the elevator. It's gonna go up, it's gonna go down, but it returns to neutral as soon as you stop. Aileron, rolls up, corrects. Rolls down, corrects. Same thing here. Rolls up, corrects. Rolls down, as soon as you stop, it stops. Now, the difference between that, half, off. I don't want it to be that high, so I'm gonna turn it back to 1X, okay? If you're at 4X, it's gonna be over exaggerated and it's gonna go as you're zooming along. Slow down or shut it off to stop that effect. I'm gonna go from 4X, I'm gonna go back from 4X to 1X. Now, you can also go fixed or adjustable gains. They're all adjustable, okay? They're off and they're adjustable. You can fix them in one mode and not have them fixed in another mode. Now, pay attention to the volume of the correction. All the way up. Halfway up. All the way off. Nothing. That's what you want. You want this gain between models to end up in the middle. If it's a super windy day, a little extra. If it's a super calm day, a little bit less. Or off. Okay? And you'll notice she's calling it out. Now you don't have to wonder, and it's also displayed right here, AS3X, off and safe, okay? So you remember how we did all that work and you're like, geez, it seems like a lot of work. Why are we doing all this work? Now you know. So that's what we do here over at Full Star. See, we take you from start to finish. This thing is ready to fly right now. The gear work, the flaps work, everything works. Unless of course you bind your gear, okay? So now I can put the plane stand on the couch. Oh yeah, that's so sweet. Roll up, this is gonna be so much fun. And also, the quickest thing you can do to check if you're in safe, I'm in safe, is flip this thing on its back. Look at the ailerons, trying to find level. The quickest route to level changes when you go past halfway. Now look at the elevator. Look at the elevator. It's stuck all the way up. Oh, I need to bring up the nose. Okay, I've got the nose level. Whew, thank God. Oh no, I need to bring the nose down. Okay. Oh no, I need to bring the plane level. Who would have known the ailerons and elevator were so annoying? All right, there you have it, guys. I'm in AS3X. If I'm in AS3X or off, what do you think is going to happen when I flip it over to the ailerons? Nothing. Unless it's moving, and while it's moving, it's going to resist. Unless it's moving because you told it to move. Okay? There's a difference between telling it to move and it moving. This is where being a parent comes in handy because you've had this happen. Like, move. No, you're not moving. Move. See, that's the same concept.
Yep.
Okay, so there you have it, guys. 4,000 milliamp hour 6S, ready to rock and roll in the Avanti S V3. Super exciting, 70 millimeter EDF. Let's see if we can do, let's see if we have enough power to just make this thing float. I don't know if we will. I'm gonna have my gear out so I've got something to hang on to. You ready? Mm-hmm. Throttle cuts off. Pretty dang close. That's good. That's gonna be good power to weight ratio. It's gonna be fun. All right, guys, that's the sun, and she is about to say bye-bye. And we're saying bye-bye right now. This was a fun build, very easy build, a little bit harder because of the nature of the size in here, but I'm gonna tell you something. This is huge compared to competitive offerings. I'm just gonna tell you that. Yep. And as soon as you get into jets, plan on extra work. And also, by the way, when we go to fly, we're gonna have a 3-minute timer and we're gonna have all this cool telemetry. Look at this, I have live gyro feeds. Okay, I have a Vario. I could do a boop, 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 beep, 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 boop, boop. That's called a Vario. And it can make an audible noise for you if you want. I'm not gonna use it now. You can even see your altitude, okay? And you can see your volts. That's telemetry, and it's all built in except for the one plug that you have to do. Now, if you have a smart battery with a smart ESC, you don't need the red and black cable with that micro pH connector that we stuck into the side and then zip tied and ran back. You can do without that. It will pass through the serial cable, the serial channel that's built into the positive negative its signal on the smart avian ESC. And then they communicate back and forth. It's full duplex communication. And there's also another menu all the way over past the Vario to the right. And you can go in and do changes right then and there. You can turn on thrust reverse. It's very easy. Once it's on, I generally assign that to G, and I would make a pilot fatigue on this where I go full. This would be reverse, and this would be like full throttle reverse without any stick movement here. Okay, that's pilot fatigue. If you want to learn how to do pilot fatigue, if you would add an avian in here, but you don't see it in this video because we don't have one, check out the 80 millimeter F16 would be a good choice. We talk a lot about it, but it was also exploratory for us. We didn't know it was going to work. And then we've done it in a bunch of other planes. But I'm struggling to think of which ones. I know the A10 had it, and a lot of planes that have thrust reverse with props, we only do controllable. So we do a middle setting, and you can move the stick and it will control the throttle in a reverse fashion, okay? But we don't do pilot fatigue because like you could accidentally hit that and like cut your hand really bad.
Yeah.
So guys, remember, fly as safe as you can, try to be a good neighbor, because remember, everybody thinks that these things are filming them while changing clothes. I don't know why. It's very confusing to me, but remember, we are the liaison to our communities about RC. We need to be good, positive role models for them, which means flying them like you stole them and making them look awesome. And then also being polite and things like that. So, beautiful plane. By the way, if the cops show up to watch, just encourage them to get an airplane so that they will understand the addiction.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. We've actually literally had cops come and watch us fly. We've had fire department came one time, watched us fly. I crashed an F-14 for them. And then they took the kids on a tour of the actual fire engine. That was so cool. Yep. We've had cops multiple times at night when we were flying night flights. They come out and watched. And we've only been kicked out once by the cops at the place where we used to fly. And they were still cool about it. They still wanted to watch a flight before they kicked us out. So anyway, and it was because somebody was flying a drone. So it wasn't even us. They're like, whatever, we'll just kick you guys out. So then we came back like later that afternoon. They were like, that's fine. Just come back as soon as you leave. Come right back. We don't care. So this plane is cool. I can't wait to see it in the air. It's gonna be good. If you don't like this, if it's not your cup of tea, if it's too fast, if it's too slow, if it's too ugly, if it's too beautiful, whatever those things are that you don't like, we have thousands more videos. I'm not exaggerating, literally thousands more videos right now that are similar to this or even better. And all you have to do is check out Brian Phillips RC. It'll help you sort through the plethora of choices that are immediately available while you make your toilet wine if you're in prison. Because I know that's a timely process. But if you're not in prison and you're just enjoying this with the family, then you'll have to now explain that to the kids. You're welcome. Anyway, most of our audience is actually adult men, like my age or older or younger, just depending on who you are. And we love doing this. My wife is the camera crew. Megan is her name. She is my wife of many years, multiple decades. We're old, just so you know. Any more questions that I like to repeatedly answer? We can try to get those out of the way.
No, we don't have time.
So we don't have time, guys. The sun's setting. We got to fly this thing right now, and we're excited to do it. And we really appreciate you. If you want to help support us, but you don't want to buy this, then buy another plane. That's the best way to support us. You buy planes from the links. We make commissions on those, okay? So we want you to buy one you love, not one that we told you to buy because it's the fastest, bestest, cheapest. If you want to see some idiots reviewing something else somewhere else on YouTube, there's a million of them, and they will tell you it's the fastest, bestest, cheapest, greenest, bluest, whatever it is. And that is a waste of your time and theirs. Even though this was like a 2.5 hour video, that's okay. We don't like to waste time. We want to get straight to the point and tell you how to make this plane the best experience you can have. And that's exactly what we do here. And if you're coming right back to the hobby, that's the other thing we do. And if you're brand new to the hobby, we want to stop you from buying this. Don't buy this. This is a bad plane for you. Bad RC pilot. Don't buy this. Or buy it and put it on the shelf. And then get a Habu or get some Ranger 1200 millimeter or something like that, or an Apprentice or whatever, and we will help you pick something good that's gonna help you have success. If you don't have success, you're gonna fail. If you fail, it's gonna be miserable. You're gonna hate the hobby. You're gonna quit. And then you're gonna be like, Brian, I don't know what to do with my NX10. Can I send it to you? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. But don't do that. If you wanna support us in other ways, but you just can't afford a plane, or your wife has threatened to murder you because you bought another one, or divorce you, or whichever one you prefer, then all you have to do is look no further than PayPal. We have PayPal down below for one-time donations. We have Patreon for monthly support. It really does help us. And seriously, we have a family of 6. They eat a lot of food, and that's in addition to me. So anyway, that helps. We also have members on YouTube, and then we have super thanks if you like the one-time thing. But really, I'm going to tell you right now, the best thing you can do to support Brian Phillips RC is smash that like button like an hour and a half ago when you started the video. Watch the videos, and then when you do like something, buy it from the links in the video description. I know everybody's got a budget. Everybody's got rationales for picking to do things differently. But if you want to throw us a bone and you couldn't follow the link for one reason or another, then we have those other mechanisms. That's the only reason we have them. I was reluctant for many years. We didn't start for like 6 or 7 years, 8 years. Then we finally did it because people kept hounding us about it. And we did it because we want to please our audience. And then YouTube offered to give us like a bonus if we turned on membership. So we did that to please ourselves. And so whatever, you know, besides that, that's fine. We still appreciate you guys either way. And we just want you here with us. We want you in the air flying. We want you loving the hobby and not sitting on the couch watching me love the hobby, because after a while, that's going to get old. I promise. Get out there and fly. Then you're going to be hooked. All right, guys, that's all you get. Come back for more. Thanks for watching.